following is a production of Golden Boy Media and Entertainment.
Downtown Los Angeles, headquarters for Golden Boy Promotions. Another exciting Friday night card coming your way. That's the downtown LA skyline. Well, it rained a little bit, but the action's going to get hot inside. Well, Friday night traffic, that's actually moving really fast, just like some of these Golden Boy prospects are moving through their young career. Alongside one of the best boxing drivers out there from UCN Live and Boxing Scene, Steve Kim, I'm Bethel Duran. Thank you for joining us for another edition of the LA Fight Club. Tonight, undercard is going to get going. Let's look at some of the matchups for tonight. Our opening bout is a super lightweight division. David Junebug Miadys, 4-0, 3 KOs from Santa Monica, takes on veteran Miadys Dixon, 7-15-2. This is a good matchup, Steve, because you have the youngster going up against that guy that needs to give him some rounds. So you see Dixon in the ring right now.
And Miadys Dixon is one of these guys you can't necessarily judge by his record. It's not exactly sterling at 17-15-2 with only 2 stoppages, but I would say he is crafty. Looking deeper into his record, 10 undefeated guys on his ledger as we take a look at David Miadys, who turned pro last year in 2016 and had a very successful campaign, Beto, with 4 fights, scoring 3 stoppages.
There's Miadys. He's 21 years old, trained by his father, David Sr.
And one thing that we've seen early on, he's a pretty good craftsman, boxing out of the southpaw stance. We're going to see how much power he really has. I think a bit of it, I wouldn't say it's a mirage, but it is a product of matchmaking. In his last bout, October 7th, here at the Velasco Theater, he scored a first-round stoppage over Jason Gavino.
And there you see him coming into the ring. David Junebug Miadys. Junebug being his nickname, a term used in the South meaning junior. His father being senior, father in his corner training him.
Interesting to note, Beto, this, despite being Miadys' 5th pro fight, they've already moved him up to 6 rounds as we go up to Joe Martinez.
We're set to go with this bout, 6 rounds in the super lightweight division. It's the sweeper, smack of the blue corner. Wearing red trim and black, he weighs officially 140 pounds. He enters the ring tonight for the 25th time as a professional. Hailing from Lancaster, PA. Here is Miadys Dixon. And across the ring, sneaking to the opponent, lining the red corner.
Our opening bout of the night. You see the tail of the tape for these two. We get ready to go from the Velasco Theater.
And you take a look at Miadys Dixon, 4 years older at age 25. He also has a decided height advantage.
David Miadys, 4-0, 3 KOs. He is the southpaw. Started boxing at his young age. His dad actually was involved in the music world, and his mom went into labor while he was in a boxing gym. So when you say he was born in the gym, yeah, he really close to it. He has a good style, comes out quick. And Dixon from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, 7-15-2 at the age of 25. And he's a fighter that it's interesting to see how Roberto Diaz, Golden Boy matchmaker, brought him up, because that's a lot of experience for a young fighter like Miadys.
No, and it's interesting, this last fight I was actually at the Galen Center on the campus of USC. He was brought in as an opponent, was Dixon, against the brother of Abner Mares, Adon Mares, and he actually had a 4-round draw, and I think you can make an argument that maybe that may have been some home cooking on behalf of Mares. One thing that's very evident here, Beto, is you see those two line up. Dixon does seem to have a natural size advantage over Miadys.
Dixon in red and black, the taller fighter. You're right. I saw him yesterday at the weigh-ins. Like, hey, what happened to your last fight? Like, robbed.
Yeah.
Which every journeyman's going to tell you. But I think, as you said, you were there. You see Speedy Mares fight. It was a draw. This was scheduled for 6. Opening bout, Beto Duran, Steve Kim.
And it will be interesting with this size disadvantage that Miadys has. How is he going to navigate around the reach of Vinci Dixon, who does enjoy not only a height advantage, but also a reach advantage if he decides to stick out that left jab.
Good combination from Miadys. He was signed to Golden Boy. Didn't have that standout amateur prospect where you're like, okay, this kid was going to every single tournament, but really nice background for him with the Santa Monica High School. Somebody that can bring him along nicely.
Well, I think this club program here at LA Fight Club presented by Golden Boy is really made for guys like this. It wasn't necessarily for your 300 winner amateur career, the guy that had 2 gold medals. It really is for the local guys who may have been considered, let's say, the second-tier prospect. Miadys has pretty good tools. He's only 21. I think the one thing that's very evident, he's a quick fighter. He may not necessarily be heavy-handed. I get the sense that he moves up in caliber of opponent, that the knockouts will be slower to come.
Good opening round for David Miadys, the southpaw.
And you see what's going on here, Beto. From the inside, even though he's the smaller guy, he's finding shelter. And right now, his shorter, more compact punches, you see he's doing a very nice job of actually crowding and smothering Dixon up along the ropes, and he's able to really beat him to the punch every single time. And throughout the round, I think that's really been the story right there. Quick combinations like that to end round number 1. Take a look at some of the action here, and again, you take a look at the distance and spacing on the inside. When they are chest to chest this close, it generally is the shorter, more compact fighter who's able to have the advantage in terms of getting off their shots and being more effective, which was certainly the case for David Miadys, who wins round number 1 on my scorecard.
David Charles Miadys turned pro May of 2016, had 4 good fights. With the distance, he turned pro on the Canelo Con card. What a way to make your pro debut in Las Vegas. Actually, he opened up the T-Mobile Arena.
Beto, I think we were one of like 2 out of a dozen people that were actually there. When he wins his first title, we can always say, that was then.
And he goes down in history, the first ever sporting event at the T-Mobile Arena. Who was it? David Miadys was the opening bout of that night. After that, he's had a TKO of Corey Van Bauer, then Jarrell Sparenberg, a KO, and a KO of Jason Cavino. Last time out, he was in October. Meanwhile, Dixon, the last time out, as you mentioned, Steve, was a draw. Before that, he was stopped in the 2nd round. Then he had a loss. He's actually fought the Blasco Theater before. Last year, in late 2015, against Oscar Torres.
Dixon is one of these guys that I call a circuit fighter. He makes the circuit. If you're a young prospect, let's say between a 4-rounder and an 8-rounder, if you want a solid quality guy that's going to give you rounds, and he's not going to embarrass himself, and also give your guy some work and an ability to stretch his legs a little bit and really work on sharpening his tools, much the way Miadys is right now. That's why Dixon's cell phone is probably listed on a lot of cell phones of a lot of matchmakers across the country.
You talk about making the circuit tonight. He's fighting at 140. He's fought at 45. He's fought at 50. He's fought at 48. He's fought at 46. Continue with that circuit. Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, California, Texas, Maine, Ohio, and New York. And it's have gloves. Let's go.
Right. Have gloves will travel. Have weight class will make. And guys like this, I've said this before to you in the past, Beto. Certain guys are not as good as their record, and other guys probably a little bit better than their record. I would say Dixon at 17, 15, and 2. You look at him technically, pretty sound, pretty solid, fundamentally grounded. Just really has not had a chance to really be the A side on a lot of fights early on in his career.
As Dixon also says, you know, I know my role. I know I'm going to get called. I know I need to make money.
Well, you know what they call it in professional wrestling? The jobber. He's like the Iron Mike Steele of like, let's say, the LA Fight Club. And it's a good uppercut on the inside by Miadys.
20 seconds ago in the second round, Miadys very confident yesterday at the weigh-in. This is just a dude right here. This is a man who's willing to get in there and mix it up with you as Dixon.
Yeah, and so far, I would say it's a very workmanlike, solid, steady performance. You can see him doing a good job of pivoting and twisting on the inside, not staying at the center point too long, and working the body with both hands. Pretty good work here through 2 for Junebug Miadys. And we take a look at some of the action from the previous round. I think this is going to be his identity, Beto. He's not what I'd call a real slick boxer, but he's a sound technical guy that's going to really break guys up with a steady attack. He's going to chip away all the time. I don't think he's going to score a lot of first round, one-shot type of KOs, as our colleague Doug Fisher calls it, the one-quitter hitter. In baseball terms, I think you'd call him a line drive hitter.
Third round scheduled for 6. David Miadys, a southpaw. And eventually Dixon, 25-year-old in black and red. First couple of rounds for Miadys. He progresses up his ladder for Golden Boy. Charismatic kid. Was in the band in high school in Santa Monica High School. He follows the social media accounts, always showing the food that he's eating. And he wore a shirt that came out to the ring and said, well fed. He is well fed. We're at the Belasco Theater. First fight of the night for the LA Fight Club. Golden Boy making their way around Southern California. March 23rd, going to be in Fantasy Springs. Jason Quigley against Glenn Tapia.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good fight. The first one on the ESPN card.
And Beto, don't forget, 2 weeks from tonight, February 17th, back at Belasco. Another busy year for Golden Boy promotion. Beto, looking at Miadys, I think the thing you have to project to is, as I believe he's going to have to work in volume. Be able to break down better, higher caliber opponents going into the future. 'Cause that's probably going to have to be the way he really makes his hay in this business.
Especially being 5'7" in it, fighting at this weight also. Thick body on him. March 10th, Christian Chipa Gonzalez will be the main event at the Belasco Theater. Sal Sanchez fighting out of India with Joel Antonio Diaz, who actually going to be opening up the card March 23rd. He's watching us right now on Facebook Live. We always appreciate the support wherever you're watching on this Friday night.
And you know, looking at Miadys again, just kind of breaking him down technically, he's going to have to be good at a lot of the little things, like moving his head after he punches, working from side to side, never leaving his head right down the middle. Because if you don't have that eraser and the ability to really sock people out of there with one shot, it really is the little things that matter. And right inside there, look, you could tell he's very comfortable from in close, letting his hands go, and you see the head movement. He's been pretty elusive, dodging some of the shots from Dixon off the ropes. There's a good body shot. And I think that's going to be another key, Beto. He's a guy that's going to have to consistently chop wood and swing that axe downstairs and break people down. I think his style does translate to longer round fights. As we take a look at some of the action from round number 3, Beto, high-low attack from David Miadys with both hands, but this is where basically he's fought for much of the night and really had success. I have him winning the first 3 rounds, both hands to the body. Dixon's been just live enough to provide a little bit of resistance here through the first 3 rounds, but it's a fight that's largely been controlled by Junebug Miadys.
Miadys mentioned it. He was in the band at Santa Monica High School, played the euphonium. What is that? I had to ask. It's a tuba. That sounds like a trombone. Santa Monica High, known for their musical program. He said after high school, when he took it really serious, he was always in the gym, going to amateur tournaments, but never really locked in 100%. That's when after high school, he jumped in 100. He spars at the Wild Card Gym. I think you've seen him there a couple times. Also Wild Card West. Got in some work with Victor Postal a few months ago. In Postal's last fight, helped work with him.
Yeah, Postal fought Terrence Crawford on July 23rd, and I believe they brought him in because, quite frankly, Terrence Crawford, people call him a switch hitter. I think more or less now he is a southpaw. And I think early on in this round, Beto, pretty good job of really starting to stamp Dixon downstairs, landing a couple of really good body shots with that right hand to the body early on to really set the tone here.
Body work from Dixon. This is definitely more of a grinding out kind of affair for Miadys. The first time he's had to do this in his career. Also being a 6-rounder, a little bit different. For the last couple fights, we've just blown out his opponents quickly.
And Beto, I think this is what he is, and I think this is what his fights are going to become. They are going to be long-distance affairs. He's going to have to consistently chip away. I don't see him scoring a lot of early, spectacular knockouts as the matchmaking becomes a little bit more difficult as he goes down this road.
Miadys, southpaw. We're approaching a minute to go in the 4th round. Good 1-2 from Miadys. He's moving around, but he's not as fast, and he gets hit with the left by Dixon.
Showing some versatility, shuffling the deck a little bit, taking a walk around the park, as they say, and working the perimeter of the rim. He is a pretty well-rounded fighter. I would say if you take a look at his overall skill set, the only thing that I would say that's really average in terms of what he does is punching power. And I've said this many times. Punchers are born. They are not made as he gets hit with a combination by Dixon. So with that said, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, but a lot of good fighters, namely like a Paulie Malignaggi. They may not be able to break a smoke ring, as they say, but they are able to win titles and have significant careers.
Final seconds of the 6th round. Miadys and Dixon. Miadys with some blood coming down from his mouth.
and we take a look at some of the action from the previous 3 minutes. Miadys spent a little bit of this round boxing from the outside, from his southpaw stance, working the outside of the ring. But he did take some leather, and as Beto noted, he did get his mouth or nose bloodied at the end of round number 4.
Going to the 5th round, Beto Duran, Steve Kim, and you at home watching, whether it's on Facebook Live like Liza27 is doing. Appreciate it. It's actually tonight just Steve and I, and Francisco Salazar in the 805.
Oh!
What a good teacher, high school teacher out there, soccer coach, and he said, I think you meant to say Iron Mike Sharp.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Steel.
It is obvious he grew up as a child of the 80s watching the WWF. So was I.
I used to watch it Saturday nights at 11:30 when Hulk Hogan would come on. But right now we're watching David Miadys and Dixon. Miadys going to the 5th round for the first time in his career.
Beto, I always talk about professional resistance from opponents. I think that's exactly what Dixon has given tonight. I don't think he's won any rounds, probably not on his way to winning a decision unless he has a bolt of lightning in his back pocket. But he has made Miadys work every single stanza. And it's really given this young guy, just 21 years old, Miadys, a chance to really work on some of his skills. I would say, based on what I've seen all of his fights, so have you, Beto, this is probably the most solid work he's gotten thus far in his career.
Without a doubt. Miadys, 21 years old. Also Steve Barkson in Canada. Boxing and poker fans tuned in with us tonight. You go to his Twitter account, he's got a pinned tweet of Hulk Hogan. So the wrestling fans are coming out watching us tonight.
He is truly a Hulkamaniac, yes.
Miadys going right-handed a little bit. Goes back to the southpaw stance. That professional resistance, Miadys is learning about it because other guys have wilted and gone down.
But veteran matchmakers have told me for years that first-round knockouts really have to be thrown out. They're spectacular, they're eye-opening, but fighters really don't learn. And even in victory or defeat, I think many times those things are aberrations. And you were there ringside last week, as was I. We saw a young man by the name of Miguel Burchelt. His one loss was a first-round knockout. Turns out, in the big scheme of things, it really didn't mean all that much to his overall development.
And right now we're watching David Miadys and Dixon.
And you see that? See the way Dixon just flashed a little bit?
Yep.
Doing just enough to look lively in there, where Miadys still has to mind his P's and Q's.
You talk about that night in Indio where Bandido Vargas lost his belt to Burchelt. How about the Diaz brothers, Tonio and Joel? They had their young fighters. Virgil Ortiz looked good. Cesar Diaz looked good. Luis Cordia looking good. Tonio Diaz did a great job with those young fighters out in Coachella. He's watching us right now. We'll see you soon.
Now that is a spectacular young stable, and Joel Diaz showing once again there's life after Tim Bradley. He believes he has a stable full of future world champions.
Working on the India Boys of Growth Club with Tonio Diaz. We're through 5 between Miadys and Dixon. Opening bout, the LA Fight Club.
And we see some of the work from Miadys, and you see some of the blood. And yes, Dixon has been able to move his hand, touching Miadys here and there, but for the most part, this has been the story of the night, Beto. Miadys working his way downstairs, two-handed attack, and then being crafty from the mid-range, and every once in a while using a little bit of movement. I think it's going to take a miraculous knockout for Dixon to win this fight.
Also watching right now, Joel De La Hoya had a rough week for his fighters. The manager, brother of Oscar De La Hoya, if you want to see him on some great YouTube footage of breaking up fights or in the corner, Joel had his fighter Edgar Valerio come down sick this week. He was taken off of this card. And then Diego De La Hoya was supposed to be pay-per-view on Cotto Kirkland, and that entire card fell off.
Yeah, James Kirkland went James Kirkland. I don't think that's much of a surprise. So that card out there in Frisco, Texas at the Dallas Cowboys Training Center, the Ford Center, has been canceled. So Miguel Cotto will be looking for a new dance partner in the first half of 2017.
Diego De La Hoya will be working back in with Golden Boy very soon, as will Edgar Valerio. Sixth and final round, the opening fight at the Belasco Theater in downtown Los Angeles, another edition of the LA Fight Club. David Miadys, the southpaw, in the silver trunks in the sixth round for the first time. Up against somebody who's giving some resistance, but Miadys looking good through the 5 rounds.
Well, I think for Miadys, moving into the future, conditioning is going to be key. I see a lot of long-distance fights. He's not going to be a sprinter. He's going to have to run a lot of marathons to get his work done. And the question is, in the second half of fights, can he maintain a certain pace to actually break guys down?
And he's getting tagged a bit. Blood from his nose. And I don't know if you heard it, Steve, right before we came back from the break, in the corner of Dixon, his trainer, Francisco Lara, was saying, you have a golden opportunity. What are you doing here? You're letting it slip away. This is what Dixon is. Comes here, gives you work. He can tag him.
You know, it's interesting. If Dixon would have been a little bit more of the initiator and led with the attack instead of just laying back, you wonder how this fight would have played out. But again, Beto, there's a reason why certain guys are opponents.
And certain guys are 7 and 15. More blood from the nose of Miadys. First time in his career he's bleeding like that. First time he's had a real challenge.
Yeah, well, Beto, this is one of those fights. I think the scorecards are going to read 60 to 54, but they don't necessarily tell the whole story. Did he control the fight? Yes. Did he dominate at times? Yes. But was it a real test? Absolutely.
Also wondering why, and also give him credit to
that looked like a knockdown. That looked like a right hand. That looked like a straight right hand from Dixon. I don't know if he actually hit the floor, but that could have easily been ruled a knockdown.
It was ruled a slip, and he jumped back in.
He slipped all right on the right hand.
Yeah, smile. A lot of matchmakers would not put their young fighter, who's only 4-0, with the Dixon because of moments like that.
I really think Miadys, and again, it looks like time is not going to be a factor. It's going to run out on Dixon. He's much safer from this distance than he is on the outside when Dixon can unfurl his longer arms.
Final seconds of the opening bout between Miadys and Dixon. Crowd getting into it. And goes the distance. 6 good quality rounds between Miadys and Dixon in downtown Los Angeles.
I thought Miadys learned a few things. This was a valuable lesson. There is some quality rounds that he got tonight, and I thought some late adverse that he capped off by this in the 6th round. Let's see if this really was a knockdown. Looked to me, and again, we're a little bit shaded here. That looked like a clean right hand.
It's glove touch.
And if that glove touched the canvas, that should technically be ruled a knockdown.
Referee jumped in there and said it was a slip. Wow.
Yeah. You know what Bill Parcells used to say, right?
What was that?
The tape don't lie.
Tape don't lie.
The eye in the sky, man, does not lie.
Also, the opening bout that Matt is not wet.
Yeah. Like you said, he slipped over a right hand.
Yeah, there you see the Santa Monica Pier, the home of David Miadys. Great aerial shot brought to you by Golden Boy Media and Entertainment Group. Crack staff doing a great job, as always, getting you the scenics of Southern California. They got that drone out there, so if you see that Golden Boy drone driven by either Louis or Will, watch out. They're coming after you.
And we take a look. Let's see again if this is the right hand. Bang. That's a clean right hand, Beto. Right on top of the head. He lost control of distance. Head was on the wrong side. Don't know if that glove touched, but I know a lot of referees, when you go down all the way in a squat position like that, they will rule that a knockdown and give you the mandatory 8.
Dixon a little bit too late. There's a reason you're 7-15 coming in. Good dude. Those are the kind of guys that you need in the sport of boxing. Saw him, immediately said hello, talked to him, say, hey, how you been? His nickname, Prize Fighter. He's going to give you work. He's gonna push you a little bit, which is exactly what we did with David Miadys. Here's Joe
Ladies and gentlemen,
Martinez.
after 6 rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards, and here are the totals. Judges Rudy Barragan and Jack Reese have it 60-54. Max DeLuca 58-56. All three for your winner by unanimous decision. And still undefeated, the Junba, David Miadys.
He is now 5-0. First time in his career goes 6 rounds. David Miadys passed the test, swept the cards.
Yes, he did. He, like you said, improved to 5-0, remains undefeated. Pretty clear winner on the scorecard, but this was a bit of a struggle as Dixon did his job as an opponent, and for the first time, this is a bit of a milestone, actually tasted his own blood in this particular contest tonight. Things got tough at the end. They'll have to really review the tape and see what he could do, and you could see the blood coming out of his nose. This was not as easy as it looked, especially late, as things like that happen.
Downtown LA, the Belasco Theater, home of the LA Fight Club, 7 o'clock Pacific time. 3 more fights coming your way, working towards the main event of Joshua Franco and Victor Garcia. See ya at 7.
The following is a production of Golden Boy Media and Entertainment.
Downtown Los Angeles, the first Friday of the month. Ryan Garcia makes a trip down from Victorville to get on the show. He's only 18 years old. Jonathan "Thunder" Navarro from a fighting family in East LA. He's the co-feature tonight. And in his first time as a main event fighter, San Antonio's Joshua Franco puts his perfect record on the line. Oh, traffic is moving. That's easy on a Friday night. Joshua Franco, he's from San Antonio. He's not used to that traffic, but he better get used to being a main event fighter the way he is going. He takes on veteran Victor Pasillas. That's the main event tonight in the super flyweight division. Co-feature Jonathan "Thunder" Navarro. That's actually Franco's stablemate with Robert Garcia out in Riverside. Takes on Angel Rodriguez. And opening up the card, Mr. Victorville, Ryan Garcia, 7-0. He takes on Devin Jones out of Louisiana. The first Friday of the month, that means it's the LA Fight Club at the Belasco Theater in downtown Los Angeles, blocks away from the headquarters of Golden Boy Promotions. A fantastic venue. If you're in Southern California, go and check it out. It's normally a nightclub. It's historic, but they put the ring in the middle and the people get going alongside a long-time boxing scribe from UCN Live and BoxingScene.com, Steve Kim. I'm Bethel Durant. Thank you for joining us tonight. Ryan Garcia opens up the show for us from the Belasco Theater. And, Steve, you saw Ryan in Inglewood when he made his first ever fight for Golden Boy.
Yes, beginning his Golden Boy debut was December 17th. At the Great Western Still Fabulous Forum, it was Ryan Garcia opening up in style, stopping Jose Antonio Martinez in two. This much is known early on about this 18-year-old Garcia. He's fast, he's flashy. The question is, can he be fundamental? He's a precocious sort. Began his career in Mexico. His first 4 bouts were south of the border as he worked things out and he got old enough to actually be licensed in California. I know Golden Boy has a lot of high hopes for him.
They sure do. Mr. Victorville, Ryan Garcia. Victorville, about, you've seen it. It's on the way to Vegas. When you're going there, you're excited. On the way back, you're like, oh, man, that's the home of Ryan Garcia. That will feature Jonathan Navarro. Great nickname with Thunder.
Thunder is an ode to the great Arturo Gatti, who was a fan-friendly television left hooker from the East Coast, and that's exactly what Navarro is. Just 20 years old with a record of 7-0. This is a guy, he's hell-bent for leather. He's not going to outbox a lot of people. His job is to get people out of there with that laser left hook.
Navarro trained by Robert Garcia, as is our main event, Joshua Franco. He comes from a fighting family. He's from San Antonio, the first one of those trio that Robert Garcia has that gets to be the main event fighter.
Yes, it's now an 8-round fighter. He had 5 fights in 2016, winning them all. We see some of the highlights here from a recent fight. But we're really opened eyes with September at Cowboy Stadium, AT&T Stadium, on the Canelo undercard, scoring an eye-opening stoppage of Brian Bazan in what was an exciting back-and-forth affair. He's 8-0 with 4 stoppages.
As always, we're very active on social media. Send us your tweets. I'm Durant Sports. Steve, you are?
Steve, UCN Live, and I'm known to tweet once in a while.
Every now and then. Ryan Garcia, he's very popular on social media. You can Google him. He'll get you all you need. He's actually giving away gloves. I mean, this kid in his second ever fight from Golden Boy, I guess Will Wright's paying him right because he's giving away some gloves. He takes on Devin Jones. They're going to be making their way towards the ring. Our ring announcer tonight is the one and only Joe Martinez. Also, go and check out the Golden Boy social media team. They're doing a great job at the Belasco Theater, all behind the scenes action. Check out their Snapchat, their Instagram, their Facebook. And when these fights are over, make sure you go to the Golden Boy YouTube page for more behind-the-scenes coverage throughout the week, and you can watch these fights over and over and over, which I'm learning now as talking to some of these fighters. I'm like, hey, do you ever study any video on your opponent? They're like, yeah. Actually, we heard you guys because they go to the Golden Boy library, and they specifically hear Steve Kim They said the guy who was critical. I'm like, that's Steve Kim.
That's my job. It's what I do. It's nothing personal here.
No, it's not. It's not at all. We break it down. We have a good time with it. It'll be Ryan Garcia, Devin Jones, then Jonathan Navarro, Angel Rodriguez, Joshua Franco, Victor Pasillas. Now, explain to the fans who are watching this, the Belasco Theater is a club show, but this is where the kids graduate, where they want to go to the next level.
Right. I would really call this a developmental or farm system. A lot of the times when you see kids at the Forum or the Staples Center or specifically the Home Depot Center on the major televised programs, they don't just suddenly get to 30-0, 25-0. They have to start somewhere, and this is now a rite of passage for every young fighter for the most part. Different promotional outlets have their own type of shows that are their farm system, and for Golden Boy for the past 2 years, this has been the main hub, and we saw a graduate last year. A young man by the name of Joseph Diaz, who was a staple of the Belasco Theater, is now what I believe a legitimate 126-pound contender and has been on platforms like HBO and major pay-per-view shows. And that's the goal of every young fighter like a Ryan Garcia, projecting ahead to, let's say, 2019, 2020, to be on those stages.
Well, if you read Ryan Garcia's article on UCN Live, he's not waiting to 2019. He was speaking with Mike Baca, one of your fine young writers at Long Beach. Go and check out that article featuring Ryan Garcia after a good workout at the media workout this weekend at the Azteca gym. Ryan said, you know, I sparred Lomachenko, I sparred Linares, I'm ready. Let's get going. This kid doesn't lack confidence.
No, and you know, Fernando Vargas was ferocious. This young man is precocious, and you get the sense that if he was on the freeway, he would be all the way on the left-hand side on the fast lane. He wants to go places. I don't think he necessarily wants to be babysat or over-marinated. But again, this is a process. This is a 6-round fight, still just 7 fights into what hopefully is a long, distinguished run.
Yeah, you mentioned in his first fight, 4 fights, actually first 5 fights, were not with Golden Boy. The first 4 were in Tijuana, 1 at another banquet hall. But this is different, though, because now you have a big crowd in front of you. It's here. And some of these younger fighters, when they have this record, Steve, they get to say, oh, yeah, I fought in Vegas in front of Beto and Steve and nobody else.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I talk to young managers all the time, and they say, Steve, we're so excited. We get to be on this big card. And then I say, really? Have you seen the bout sheet? They say, no. Well, you're all the way on the bottom, which means you're fighting at about 3:30. So I hope you impress the commission members who are ringside, because Beto, quite frankly, they're usually the only ones there.
Yeah, that's when they say, oh, doors open 3:30. First fight, 3:30. Yeah. There you see the man from Louisiana, Devin Jones. That's Ryan Garcia. You know you're dapper when you have a suit sponsor. This kid is 18 years old, and you always see him in his social media or at press conferences always looking the part. He is sponsored by a suit company. That's the way to do it. You see his cut man in the back, Mike Rodriguez working. That's his dad, Henry Garcia, who is also his trainer out of Victorville. And Ryan is taking his time, knowing that Steve and I have a lot of notes on him.
You know, one thing that's very evident about Garcia and seeing highlights of him, and I also saw him at that one club show back in Hollywood that you referenced back in about October. Very fast, a lot of speed. I do wonder about his chin. He seems to really stick it out there almost like a Pez dispenser. I think as you go along and you watch him, I think one of the teaching points that they're going to keep stressing, or at least I would hope they stress, is tucking in that chin. Again, a lot of kids are flashy and fast, but you have to be able to master the fundamentals.
Anybody can be flashy when you're using Boomerang on Instagram. It's a different story when you get into the ring. What's up to Lamont Roach Jr.? Big win last week in Indio. We'll talk more about Lamont, who's watching us right now.
Gentlemen, 6 rounds of boxing this in the lightweight division. Los tres jueces por ese combate, the 3 judges scoring this bout at ringside: Rudy Barragan, Maximiliano De Luca, and David Mendoza. On the bell rings, your referee in charge of the action, Raul Caiz.
Presentaron primero en la esquina azul, con los pantaloncillos rojo con negro y un peso de 133 libras y 3 cuartos. Introducing to you first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing red trunks trimmed in black, he weighed officially 133 3/4 pounds. Con un récord de 2 victorias, un por nocaut y una derrota, his professional record in 3 bouts stands at 2 victories, 1 defeat, 1 win, coming by way of knockout from Alexandria, Louisiana. Here is Devon, the Hitman Jones. Y su oponente en la esquina roja, con los pantaloncillos blanco con azul y un peso de 133 libras y un cuarto. His opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wears tonight white trimmed in blue. He weighed officially 133 1/4 pounds, con un récord perfecto de 7 victorias, 0 derrotas y 6 ganadas por nocaut. He stands perfect in 7 bouts with 7 victories, no defeats, 6 wins by way of knockout from Victorville, California, the fighting pride of the high desert. Here is the undefeated Ryan King Roy Garcia.
All right, gentlemen, you had your instructions downstairs. Keep your punches up. Punches here are fine. Watch your heads. Shake hands and good luck to both of you.
Raul Caiz Sr., the man in the ring. Look at Santa Monica Pier. Look at the tail of the tape for this one, Steve.
And one thing that sticks out once again, Ryan Garcia, the precocious young man from Victorville, just 18 years old. Devin Jones, a year shy of 30. It is Garcia, though, with a 2-inch height advantage.
Mentioned that Lamont Roach Jr. was watching out of the No Excuse Gym in Washington, D.C. He's actually at the National Silver Gloves with 2 of his young amateur fighters out of that gym in D.C. Thanks for watching. He won the WBC youth belt. Looking good, did Lamont Roach Jr. Also, Zachary Ochoa watching us from Brooklyn, New York. And I guess he's breaking news like you, Steve. See you soon, March 11th. I guess he's fighting in New York.
Yes, well, you know, Zachary's certainly one of our more dedicated viewers, and Lamont Roach with a solid victory. Scored a first-round knockout, I believe, with some body shots. Good, solid fighter, both of those young men.
That March 11th show in New York will be Curtis Stevens and David Lemieux. The night before that, Christian Chimpa Gonzalez will be at the Belasco. He is the main event fighter, an exciting kid out of Buena Park, a fighting family. He and his younger brother, Aldair, his father, trainer, brother of former world champion Cobrita Gonzalez. You'll see Chimpa in the ring March 10th, and Chimpa actually sparred with Ryan Garcia. And the good thing is, there's no video. You don't ever post your video on of you sparring, young people.
But you referred to, what exactly is this program about? I remember about 2 years ago as this program began, I remember Chimpa Gonzalez making his debut, actually getting knocked down, looking much more like a suspect than a prospect, but we've literally seen him blossom in front of our eyes. That's what this program really intends to do, develop young fighters.
Ryan Garcia, homeschooled in Victorville. His gym is in his garage. His dad, Henry, converted the garage into the gym. So they drive around Southern California for sparring. And Victor mentioned it, 2 hours, hour and a half away from downtown Los Angeles, depending on traffic. His opponent, Devin Jones, 2-1. Jones actually from Sacramento, went to Fairfield High School, where he was a standout CIF wrestler, went to state, married, moved to Louisiana, where his wife is from. His wife, Crystal Jones, watching right now. He has 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. He played football, he played basketball, ran track, was always into the sports. He is 1-4 as an MMA fighter. He's also done kickboxing. He is 2-1 in his boxing career. He said because the money's better in boxing.
Oh, that was a good right hand. Good right hand. He catches Devin Jones in the southpaw stance, who's done a little bit of switch hitting. And you can see some of the explosive power and the twitchiness of Garcia early on. But again, that's the recklessness right there. I still think Garcia, as he scores a knockdown, needs to do a better job of making himself a little bit smaller at times and tucking in that chin.
7, come here. Turn around.
Jones went down in the first round.
Box.
Final seconds of the opening round. It is scheduled for 6 in our opening bout at the Velasco Theater, the LA Fight Club. First edition of the month of March or February. And Kai's going to count that as a knockdown?
Yes, he is.
Oh, yeah. Right at the bell.
He is giving him the mandatory 8. So that'll make that a 10-7 round for young Ryan Garcia.
César, 10 para esquina roja, 7 para esquina azul.
And for those of you scoring at home in Espanol, 7-7. Devin Jones, 0 amateur fights.
And keep this in mind as he's taking instructions in the corner. In his last fight, December 15th, he was stopped in 2 rounds. As we take a look at some of the action, and that was the right hand that I really buckled Devin Jones' knees and really began some of the problems. And you see the exuberance and perhaps over-exuberance of Ryan Garcia rushing it. And he has to be a little bit more mindful of the fact, in this game, Beto, they are allowed to hit back. I think that's going to be the thing. Early on in his career, he's going to face guys he'll be able to overmatch and swarm, but I think he still has to mind his P's and Q's defensively.
And there you see Devin Jones. Devin Jones in out of his class right now. He trains boxing for his MMA side, and you can see the striking that he's doing. Ryan Garcia started boxing at the age of 8, went to a lot of that big-time amateur tournaments, traveled all over the country for it. That's the reason he didn't go to high school, because he was going to tournaments. It's hard to find him an opponent. Jones picked up this fight this Monday.
Well, the best thing about MMA guys that do boxing is that they're really good at MMA usually. And you can see that the real big advantage in terms of Garcia, just in technique and command. He certainly looks like, and there's a good right hand. You basically timed Jones coming in with that lead right hand.
Walked right into that, but he did hit Garcia in the nose, did Devin Jones. You hear Raul Calles, one more knockdown and you're done. He's been down 3 times here early in the fight. Ryan Garcia in the white, and there it is.
Oh.
It is over. Raul Calles Jr., Sr. has stopped it. Ryan Garcia improves to 8-0 with 7 KOs. The lights went out for that Devin Jones.
Well, Devin Jones kept rushing in, and Ryan Garcia just timed him off that back foot and threw lead right hands. And you can see the explosiveness of Ryan Garcia, who now improves to 8-0. He's certainly a prospect to look out for. It's interesting. He's a tall guy. I think improving upon his boxing skills and being a little bit more patient. That's the thing to look at. Remember, he's just 18 years old. The guy he is now, we're probably going to see a different physical being, and also technically at the age of 21. And you see that was not exactly the cleanest right hand landed on Devin Jones, but I think Calles made a decision. This wasn't going to change anytime soon.
Jones swinging crazy, as was Ryan Garcia. If you want to know more about Ryan Garcia, go and check out that article by Mike Baca on UCN Live. Really long, lengthy article, gives you a background on who Ryan Garcia is. Trained by his father, Henry Garcia. Henry actually from the Chicago area. Ryan told his uncle early on in his career, I want one of those belts. He saw the shiny belts. Well, how do I get it? He said, well, you got to fight.
And that was, I believe, the 3rd knockdown, which occurred right in the middle of round number 2. And shortly thereafter, here is, I believe, the finishing punch that really ended things. And it was not the cleanest right hand. But, you know, let's face it, if a guy's 2-1 and been knocked out in knocked out in his previous fight in 2 rounds, as they say, the die is cast, and that was going to be one-way traffic in favor of Ryan Garcia. I think Garcia's the type of kid we're going to see a lot.
He's green, isn't he?
You know what?
I mean, obviously, I'm not an expert. I don't know much, but last week we saw Virgil Ortiz, Cesar Diaz, and Louis Correa, 18 years old, the same contemporary as Ryan Garcia, and the way that they throw punches, a lot smoother compared to what we saw from Ryan Garcia.
What I see with Ryan Garcia is physical potential, but I see unrefined skill and technique. There's an old John Woodenism that I love. Be quick, but don't be in a hurry. At times I get the sense, for all the flash of Garcia, seems to be in a hurry. There's an old phrase, let the game come to you. I think that applies to this young man. There's a lot of physical potential, but I think like a wild colt, he has to be harnessed.
You kind of have to take your time with the way you bring him up also, right? Like a fighter like Ortiz, who could have gone to the Olympics. That's when you rush a little bit more compared to Garcia. Looking good, though. 8-0, 6-0. Mr. Victorville. As he said, everybody in Victorville knows him. His shirts are made by there. He He's a celebrity in that town, sells a lot of tickets. Bright future for Ryan Garcia. He's got his own website, he's got his own shirts. He's a brand, baby, he's a brand. You should think about this on your website. You should think about it at UCN Live. You gotta become a brand, Steve Kim. Let's look at some replays of the knockdown. He knocked him down 4 times.
You know, and as you look in between all the punches of Garcia, you see stuff that's happening in between it. It might be a little bit subtle, but I mean, Jones is finding counter-punching opportunities. And with all respect to Jones, has enough courage to get in there. He's not exactly what I'd call a really skilled sharpshooter. I do see. Well, let's go up to Joe Martinez.
Segundos del segundo asalto de referee para la pelea para el ganador por knockout. The end comes officially. 55 seconds. Round number 2. Your winner by KO victory and still undefeated. Victorville's own Ryan King Roy Garcia.
Ryan Garcia knocked him down 4 times. Kai Sr. stopped it. Ryan ate a couple punches, though, a little red in the nose.
You know, you cover a lot of basketball. You know what he reminds me of? He was a basketball player. He's that young guy that could jump out the gym. He'll give you some highlight reel block shots and dunks. Doesn't actually have like a 15-footer. It doesn't do a lot of the little things that, you know, basketball players are expected to do.
Yep.
That's what it reminds me of. But again, he's just 18 years old, and he's going to have a lot of opportunities to develop. I believe Golden Boy's doing over 40 shows this year. Regular rotation at the Belasco Theater and Fantasy Springs. If you are Robert Diaz, you have to gauge one thing. Is he actually ready to handle a real professional?
Well, we saw this earlier in the opening bout. David Miadys, 4-0, went up against Eventually Dixon, who's 7-15, and had to work for it. Got the victory, did Miadys, and here you see.
And again, right there is a case where he hurts Jones early, but he actually loses control at distance. And he's actually in harm's way. And control of distance is something that comes with seasoning. You got to keep working at it at the gym. And I'll keep harping on it. I don't want to sound repetitive, but his chin does seem up there like a lantern in the night.
Once again, Devin Jones, 0 amateur fights. Ryan Garcia has gone up against some of the best. He sparred Lomachenko, sparred Linares. According to him, he held his own. That's a big step. He is now 8-0. Nico Valdez, babyface Nico. If you want to talk about somebody building a brand, now that kid in Miami, watch out, Pitbull. That is Mr. 305. Belgium and Cuban. Nico Valdez. Actually, he's going to have a fight soon in March. That is Jonathan Navarro, Angel Rodriguez coming up next. Nico Valdez, we'll see you soon. Thanks for sending your tweet. Y un saludo a Paolo Andres, que nos está mirando en Barranquilla, Colombia, ahorita. Yes, we are on the call tonight. Gracias a todos los que están mirando en Sudamérica y a todos los que están mirando en México también. Also, thanks to everybody watching in Pomona. And if you went to Bishop Amat High School or if you went to LMU alum like Marco Pelayo, we appreciate you supporting us out in the Pomona area. Beto Duran, Steve Kim, and yes, for those of you wondering, Steve Kim is wearing fancy shoes tonight. It rained in LA, so that means there's no chanclas for him, man.
It's cold out there.
Exactly. Geez. You got to wear shoes on a Friday night. Coming up next, Jonathan Thunder Navarro against Angel Rodriguez. And Steve, we mentioned that you see Ryan Garcia got done with the interview. The Golden Boy prospects that they have at the age of 18. Virgil Ortiz, Luis Correa, who's still in high school. Cesar Diaz, a kid from Palmdale. Ryan Garcia, you add him. Hector Tanajara, who was scheduled to fight tonight, but he's only 20. His opponent came in overweight. The young core stable for Golden Boy, the future is bright.
You know, a lot of these shows, I don't know if people realize this as I go inside baseball, they don't make money on these shows. These are really lost leaders, but it is an investment into the future. Golden Boy, the last 2.5 years, has really done a nice job of signing prospects. And this past weekend, it was actually National Letter of Intent Day.
Yeah.
And I believe Golden Boy has as deep a stable of young blue-chip prospects as any promotional company in the world. And they've done a nice job of just gradually building them up and getting them on to the next stage. Another guy is Genaro Gomez. If he could ever get some discipline in his life, I think he's certainly a young man with upside.
Gomez is scheduled to fight on the 17th at the Belasco Theater. That Golden Boy will be at the Belasco again February 17th. As Tito Manzanares will be making his U.S. debut, a fighter who grew up in Tucson, also now lives in Los Mochis, Sinaloa. Golden Boy really high on him. he will be making his U.S. debut as he's the main event. Linus in Philadelphia, as always, appreciate you watching us. Send us your tweets, Durant Sports and Steve UCN Live. Just like Christina Zamora is watching us in the 626, watching the baby, feeding the baby, and watching the fights tonight. That is a dedicated woman.
Yes. Mother of the year.
Why not? Why not? So there's an opening bout is in the books. Ryan Garcia, a second-round stoppage. Joshua Franco will be the main event. He takes on Victor Pasillas. One of the best things about following Steve Kim on Twitter is that he will tweet you about anything and everything. But when he gets into the news and notes, he is breaking news for you. News coming out of Golden Boy today. Canelo Chavez, a fight is made, but now we know where we can go.
Yes, it'll be at the T-Mobile Arena. We were there for the opening last May when Canelo took on Amir Khan. It was made official by everyone involved today, Golden Boy making the announcement. The press tour and the ticket prices will be announced soon, according to President Eric Gomez. Interesting sidelight to that fight. It was being reported, and I believe Chavez himself put it out on social media. He will be trained by Nacho Beristain, best known for working with the Marquez brothers. I'm just going to offer a very unsolicited opinion. I think it's a bad fit. For the most part, Nacho Beristain is known for working with technicians and counterpunchers. Chavez is none of that. It kind of reminds me of, and you'll appreciate this, you cover the Lakers. Remember when Mike D'Antoni came to the Lakers and he had Pau Gasol and Kobe? It's just a bad fit. I think this is a bad fit. I think if you look at that fight at 164.5 pounds, let's say everyone makes weight correctly, Chavez is going to win this fight not by being cute or technical, but by being more aggressive and enforcing his will and his size. That's generally not what type of strategy or the philosophy of Nacho Beristain.
And Beristain, he keeps his camps in Mexico City, doesn't he?
Yes.
Like, there's no condition. You know, Freddie will go to the Philippines or anything like that.
Yeah.
Beristain's like, no, you're coming to the DF.
Yeah.
Whew.
That's going to be an interesting fight, though. And the question is, on the afternoon of May 5th, I think the weigh-in will be key. When you have a situation, if you just look at the facts, Chavez has not been a middleweight or that close to being 160 pounds since September of 2012 when he fought Sergio Martinez.
Wow.
For the most part, he has been a light heavyweight. In his last fight against Dominic Brish, he came in at 167, I believe. He looked emaciated. And part of the agreement that we have for this fight, it is a catch weight of 164.5. Golden Boy did negotiate the fact that, listen, they have the A side. One note here, though, according to Eric Gomez, there is no rehydration limit. So we might have a very, very big, robust version of Chavez come May 6th.
And that'll be at the T-Mobile Arena. And the fight week action, as always. It's no longer let's get there Saturday or even for the weigh-in. Starting Tuesday, the Golden Boy will have something Wednesday, Thursday, and Cinco de Mayo in Las Vegas with two Mexicans. I'm just saying, book a room now. I mean,
right.
Get it now.
And one note, I think everyone knows, March 18th, Gennady Golovkin defends his various middleweight belts against Danny Jacobs. We just talked about the event on May 6th. Beto, I really believe, from what I've been told, things are looking very good. If Golovkin and Saul Alvarez both come out victorious, keep September open. I believe it's going to happen.
Well, I got to check with the Miami football schedule first.
We play Florida State that day, but we all have priorities. We all have jobs to do. September 16th. But, you know, a lot of people ask me on Twitter, Steve, do you really believe that the two sides will come to an agreement, and do you think Canelo and Golden Boy will pull the trigger? Based on the knowledge that I have and my gut feel, the answer is C.
Is that why you left the studio when the phone rang?
There's a lot of reasons why I answer the phone when out and leave outside the studio.
We were talking. I mean, first of all, you're the only guy who still uses the phone to talk.
Yes.
Everybody else just texts. You actually got it. I'm like, okay. You're like, hey. You did the whole like, oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hold on. Like, now I figured it out. All right, what else you got on those news and notes, Steve?
A couple of things. You know, Mikey Garcia was very impressive last week on Showtime, blowing out Dejan Zlatikin and becoming a 3-division world champion. I believe he's one of the best fighters in the world. Talking to his brother and trainer, Robert Garcia, the plan is to fight at least 3 times, hopefully 4. But they believe that they are going to be fighting somewhere in Southern California in June. Beto, I thought Mikey Garcia was spectacular last week.
We were in Indio for doing the international broadcast of the HBO show with Burcheld and Bandido Vargas.
Yeah.
got home and I saw that, and I know Twitter tells you what happened. You can see now the replays right away, but when you're sitting there watching it and you know what's going to happen, and you still say, oh, that knockout, the first punch he landed, but the one that Mikey knocked him out with, that's the punch of the year.
It is.
It is. I don't think. Oh, good for you, Mikey. You're at Radio Row in Houston working the Super Bowl. Also, let's go. Keep the tweets coming. Durant Sports and Steve UCN Live. Ryan Scalia. I hope I'm saying you're right.
Oh, one of the real experts. Love his work for UCN Live. One of the real sharp guys out there.
Watching from the frozen tundra in Canada. Ryan, we are frozen too. It's sprinkled here in Los Angeles today. Steve is wearing shoes, so you know.
Low 60s.
We are in, we're worried right now, but he makes a good point about Ryan Garcia, who got the second round stoppage. He's now 8-0 with 7 KOs. Garcia and Golden Boy team got to make sure he doesn't try to sprint in a marathon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one other note, speaking of Golovkin in March 18th, Ryan Blue Chip Martin, a lightweight that we saw back in December, he will be opening up the pay-per-view broadcast from the Madison Square Garden March 18th. Now, a lot of people are going to ask what happened to WBO Cruiserweight Champion Alexander Usyk, who many believe would be a part of that card. According to Tom K2 Loeffler, he will be performing on HBO in April. So keep that in mind, and as we always say, check your local listings.
Check your local listings. For those of you guys who don't know, that's when they used to send a TV guide to your house.
I remember those.
Yeah.
Those were great.
George Costanza's dad used to get crazy about that. Beth Durant, Steve Kim, we're waiting for Jonathan Navarro and Angel Rodriguez to make their way to the ring. Rodriguez out of Houston, Texas. Navarro, East Los Angeles, now living in the Robert Garcia Boxing Academy in Riverside. There you see Tattoo. And our main event tonight will be Joshua Franco taking on Victor Pasillas. Franco in the first main event of his young career. He's 21 from San Antonio, Texas. He has a 17-year-old brother named Bam Rodriguez, who just recently signed with Taken Promotions. Is going to make his debut March 4th in Mexico City. Yeah,
and it's interesting. There is a growing trend of smaller weight fighters actually signing with the Honorable Mr. Honda, where there's a lot more business for the smaller fighters now. Taking a look at Franco, I referenced this earlier. Beto, we were there early on for the Canelo Liam Smith card. I thought Franco opened some eyes against Brian Bazan. He got buzzed. It was back and forth action. But he finished with a kick I had not seen before with the uppercut. And I think he really stamped himself as a prospect to look out for.
Without a doubt. He doesn't speak much. His nickname is a professor because he walked in the first day at Robert Garcia wearing a sweater and glasses. And they said, who's this kid? You ain't a fighter. He started sparring. And like, okay, yeah, you are. Also looking at so here's the schedule for Golden Boy. The 17th, back at the Belasco Theater. March 10th. Chimpa Gonzalez, main event. His younger brother, Aldahir, the pride of Buena Park High School, good amateur, 10th grade. I think my favorite follow on Snapchat. He will be in attendance, and Chimpa will be the main event. And then March 23rd, Jason Quigley from Donegal, Ireland, takes on Glenn Tapia. That'll be the first ESPN Golden Boy show together. And Quigley, the main event, taking a step up in competition.
Yeah, Glenn Tapia, the question is how much is left in the tank? I'll be honest, what we saw against David Lemieux last year, I thought was a little bit alarming. I don't know how much of Glenn Tapia, the one that we saw as a bright young prospect under the top-ranked banner in, let's say, 2009, 10, 11, and 12, really exists anymore. And you take a look at that schedule that you just listed, Beto. Talking to Robert Diaz, he's got to find a spot now for Diego De La Hoya, who was part of that February 25th card that has gone to Bolivian with the cut or the broken nose suffered by James Kirkland. And now Miguel Cotto has to look for a new dance partner.
And also he needs to find a date for Hector Tanajara, who is scheduled to fight tonight. His opponent came in overweight, for those of you watching in San Antonio, Texas. This is what you call professional field. We've gone through Steve Kim's news and notes.
Well, we're stretching. We're Willie McCovey. We are stretching.
Will Wright leading the way. David and Scott Tatro, Executive Vice President and Vice President of Golden Boy Media and Communications. We are broadcasting from downtown Los Angeles. And there you see Art with the Dodger hat. That means there's a fighter coming their way. You see a referee. That is Jack Race. That is Mr. 805, Mr. Ventura, jumping in. So it looks like the fighters are going to be making their way towards them.
Beto, we were there last week in Fantasy Springs. You had a much better seat than I did. The press row was actually behind the crowd. But I have to tell you, Francisco Vargas, boy, this guy has been an absolute soldier. Didn't he look a little bit hollowed out, like the rough terrain had really gotten to him?
You and Doug Fisher have taught me that fighters can get old in the ring. And
Yeah.
I don't have an expert opinion, but I had an eye, and it just looked like in the 8th round, Vargas was coming back a little bit. His body was telling him, his arms were telling him, but he had no legs.
And once the legs go,
They're shot.
Everything else falls apart. It almost looked like marshmallows bouncing off a battleship. It seemed like Burkell just got bigger and stronger as the night went on.
And Burkell, a fighter, only one loss. I think you tweeted it. You can't judge a fighter when you get knocked down in the first round because he got caught cold. But now he's a world champion. And there you see Jonathan Navarro, Thunder Navarro, from East LA. He's 20 years old, from a Fighting Navarro clan. I think Doug Fisher said he saw him when he was 7 years old at a gym.
LA Boxing Club, which used to be the hot spot with guys like Genaro Hernandez, God rest his soul.
Chiganito?
Yes, Sugar Shane Mosley. And in fact, his brother, Jose Navarro, who had a bit of a disappointing professional run, the Golden Southpaw, he has a trivia question. He's the last American amateur to beat Floyd Mayweather back in the mid-90s.
Really?
Yes, and then Carlos Navarro was a part of the 2000 U.S. Olympic team, a very crafty left-handed southpaw who had a pretty good professional run.
His opponent, Angel Rodriguez, 5'6" out of Houston, Texas. Martinez boxing, that's who she's coming out of. Look at some highlights of Thunder Navarro.
And again, this moniker is in honor of Arturo Gatti. But let's go to Joe Martinez right
6
now.
rounds of boxing this in the super lightweight division. Los tres jueces otra vez. Once again, your 3 judges scoring at ringside: Rudy Barragan, Max DeLuca, and David Mendoza. When the bell rings, your referee in charge of the action, Jack Breeze. Presentar primero la esquina azul con los pantaloncillos rojos y un peso de 139 libras y medias. Introducing to you first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing solid red trunks tonight. He weighed in officially 139 1/2 pounds. Con un récord de 5 victorias, 6 derrotas, 3 empates y 4 ganadas por nocaut. His professional record, 5 victories, including 4 knockouts, 6 defeats, and 3 bouts even. From Houston, Texas, here is Angel Rodriguez. Y su oponente en la esquina roja, con los pantaloncillos dorados con blanco y negro y un peso de 139 libras y medias. His opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wears tonight gold trimmed in white and black, and he too weighed in officially 139 1/2 pounds. Con un récord perfecto con 7 victorias, 0 derrotas y 5 ganadas por nocaut. He stands perfect in 7 bouts with 7 victories, no defeats, 5 big wins coming by way of knockout from East Los Angeles, California. Here is the undefeated Jonathan Thunder Navarro.
Hi, gentlemen, both trunks are good, mouthpiece. He's got his. Listen and obey my commands at all time. Protect yourself at all time. Fight hard, but fight clean. Good luck to both of you.
Look at the tail of the tape, Steve.
And the one thing that really jumps out is Angel Rodriguez, 35 years old, certainly a grizzled veteran, although he doesn't have that many fights. Everything else relatively equal. Navarro just 20 years old.
Beto Duran, Steve, Cam, keep the tweets coming. As Jonathan Navarro out of Robert Garcia Boxing Academy, the Riverside function. Obviously, Robert, well known in the Ventura area, also has a gym now in Riverside, and mostly run by Pita Garcia.
Yeah, who wants a shout out? Pita. There it is.
Shout out. Pita in Philadelphia with one of the other fighters. It seems like Robert Garcia has 100 fighters, and make sure they all go to Pita Fitness to get their workout in. Navarro in the gold, real polished amateur. He's only 20 years old, turned pro in 2015. with a first-round KO. He's 7-0, 5 KOs, and just talking to some of the fighters that he sparred against in his past or knowing from the amateurs, they said that name Thunder is appropriate because he hits hard.
And he makes no pretenses about his style. He's going to dig and plant his feet, and he's going to punch hard. I don't think he's going to finesse his way through a lot of fights. His fights are going to be very rough, tough, and physical. And early on, he's setting the tone here against Rodriguez.
Angel Rodriguez, living in Houston, Texas, turned pro in 2006. But this is the first time he's in the ring since 2012. Journeyman fighter, and he's back in there.
He might have so much ring rust, they might have WD-40 in the corner. I'm not exactly sure what was going on there, but generally it's not a good idea to take off about 4 or 5 rounds. I think Houston, we have a problem because he's getting hurt and hit very cleanly here in round number 1.
Stephon Friedman, PR extraordinaire. If he needs some politics and boxing, he will do both. Business to work in, boxing and politics. Watching right now in the 3-1-0, he's watching Jonathan Navarro lay some hands on Angel Rodriguez in the opening round. It is scheduled for 6. Rodriguez already breathing heavy. But Rodriguez able to land a couple of jabs. Good 1-2.
This is a great style for Navarro, because one thing noticeable about Rodriguez, forgetting the long layup, he doesn't really have much of a jab. So Navarro's able to step inside that hit zone, reach that airspace. I think what's going to give Navarro a lot of problems, they're going to have to work on, is dealing with boxers. They're going to be able to, really from the front side, with, let's say, a right-handed fighter, guys with long jabs, they're going to be able to keep him at a distance. Those are the guys that I believe are going to trouble Navarro in the future.
30 seconds to go in the opening round. Jonathan Navarro spars Mikey Garcia. You mentioned the families, Uncle Carlos Jose Refugio and Ignacio. Good right hand landed by Navarro, followed by a jab. Doesn't speak much, lets his hands do the speaking for him. Good opening round between Jonathan Navarro and Angel Rodriguez, who's shaking off some of that rust. Like, okay, I got hit. Let me nod with you, kid.
Beto, I got to
stares at him. All right.
I got to give him credit. I thought the last 30 seconds he started to find his sea leg, started to counterpunch effectively against Navarro. Take a look at some of the action, and this was the last part of round number 1 when Rodriguez started to feel a little bit more comfortable, and this will be the story for Navarro. We know he's a very offensively inclined fighter. Can he close up some of the defensive holes in his game?
And as always on Twitter, everybody likes to correct you. As Caesar is doing it, he's going to let me know that RGBA is Oxnard. I know that, and I said in Ventura County.
Yeah, and Doug Ever, the editor, points out it was Jose Navarro that was the Olympian. Carlos is the one that beat Mayweather.
As Petro Zamani was saying, news and retractions. We understand, we get it. We are on the fly, but see what we're doing? We are held accountable. We low, and we love it. Thank you for watching.
No fake news here. No fake news here.
No. You're 805. It's Francisco Salazar who is checking it out. All kinds of facts right here on Ring TV Live. You see Jonathan Navarro in the gold. Mentioned he's the kid who doesn't talk. He's not going to promote himself. His social medias are mostly private. He just said that's not his style, unlike other people. He just comes out to box. He likes living out in Riverside now, Riverside County, because he owns 2 horses. That's his way of being calm. And when you grow up in the East LA area, it's not much area for you to ride your horse. Get some peace out there. Robert Garcia with that academy in Riverside. He is Navarro, Jonathan Franco, Hector Tanahara, and essentially these young kids, that's their college. That's their dorm life. They didn't go to school, but that's what they're doing right now. And they wake up, they run the hills together. They go to eat together. They train together. They spar together. and they're growing up, and they're a team right now. And you do see, and you get that sense of them. And that's why all three of them are on the card tonight.
And you can see in this particular round, Navarro's a little bit more patient, working his way in, trying to close the gap. I get the sense he's been told by Robert Garcia, break the body down and eventually the hands will fall. I want to say one thing about Rodriguez. Despite the modest record, is again, he gets hit with a two-punch combination. On his record, notable names like Diego Magdaleno, Adrian Broner, and Casey Ramos. He's a pretty seasoned guy.
A long time ago, but he's been in there. And this is more with the matchmaking from Robert Diaz and Javier Razo, where you got to take these kids who are 7-0. If you feel like they're ready, put them up against these grown men.
Yeah, and one thing we have to note, and we didn't speak about the age, he's only 20 years old. I would say for the most part, most fighters are not really, I think, ready and able to defend and win a title probably till their mid-20s. You have your prodigies like De La Hoya and Mayweather, who I believe won titles very early on before their 15th pro fight. Most kids are not going to be at that level that quickly.
Fernando Vargas, 21, right?
Yeah. Back Fernando Vargas in 1998, I think he beat Yuri Boy Campos. I believe at the point he was the youngest junior middleweight belt holder in the history of boxing.
Second round is scheduled for 6. Belasco Theater, the LA Fight Club, the first Friday of the month. Always a jam-packed crowd. They're watching Navarro and Rodriguez going at it.
Ooh. And again, you see again, Navarro is not exactly Pernell Whitaker in there. He's not the most elusive guy. And that's what they're really going to have to focus in on, is the defensive aspect of his arsenal.
Just a little bit, but that's okay, because you're getting the better shots right now. All right?
Head. Head.
Head, right here. Look at me. You need to stop. Look at me. You need to stop going
And some of the action
backwards,
from round
okay?
number 2. Much more patient round, but it was again Rodriguez finishing the round with the flourish as he's able to land that combination right to the kisser of Jonathan Navarro.
Once you're in there, you go to the body. Or you start up third and finish up with the body shot. I need those 3 combinations, all right? Un poquito más, combinaciones de 2, de 3 golpes, ¿ok? Termina el último con un golpe fuerte. 2, 3, 4 y luego fuerte. 2, 3 y luego fuerte. All right?
Fuerte being strong, throw combinations 2, 3, 4 at a time. Emilio Sanchez, Golden Boy fighter, watching us in the A1A in San Fernando, the pride of Pacoima. He went to San Fernando High School. His younger brother, Sal Sanchez, mentioned earlier, opening up the show March 23rd at the Fantasy Springs Resort and Casino. The Golden Boy work with ESPN. The first show will be brought to you from the Coachella Valley. Sal Sanchez is also, he's 2-0, a young, nice-looking fighter. He fights at 115 pounds. Right now, Jonathan Navarro in the gold. He weighed 139, as did Angel Rodriguez. Mentioned Rodriguez hasn't fought since 2012. And you said it, he did that WD-40,
Yeah.
shook it off after a couple.
You know, honestly, he's been steady. He's certainly a strong-looking guy. He's got a nice, thick base to him. The punches don't affect him all that much. He's hurt a little bit, he's stunned, but you know, he's not rocked back on his heels, and he's providing some pretty good work here. And he's been able to be sneaky with his counterpuncher, and he's been able to catch Navarro a couple times. Navarro, I'd say, is getting a pretty good night's work here from Rodriguez.
So when you see these guys regularly, wait, they haven't fought in how many years? But then you see who they win up against, the quality of opponents.
Well, I'm always fascinated when guys have layoffs of more than a year, because generally it's a couple of things. Either they're injured, they get bored of the sport, or they go on vacation.
And they have management problems.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I have manager problems. Well, who's your manager? I don't know. Yeah, vacations are always good. I like using sabbatical. As Jonathan Navarro landed some good shots here in the third, halfway through the third round. He goes with that hook. He really goes after it.
You really could see him putting all that pressure and weight on that front foot, and he's not making any attempt to hide what he's doing. He is a left hooker. What we're seeing tonight, if you project ahead against better opponents, Jonathan Navarro is going to be involved in a lot of good back and forth television, fan-friendly fights. That, I think, is going to be his identity as a fighter.
Last time Navarro was in the ring was in September in Fantasy Springs when he took on Farkhad Sharipov, a tough fighter from Florida who took that fight because he had an MMA World Championship coming up He's like, I needed to get the rounds in boxing, and he really gave Navarro a good amount of work. He went the distance 6 rounds. Navarro swept the card, but that was another fight where he was fighting a grown man. Before that, he had knocked out 4 in a row. Step up in competition and realize these grown men are thicker, and they don't wilt the way some of these younger fighters do.
Yeah, the way I would describe Rodriguez is very sturdy, and I think Navarro would be very well served just to dig downstairs, like that again. Double up that hook downstairs. Really be patient and chip away at this guy.
That was the first time in 4 years that Rodriguez is trying to make weight. Oh, good shot landed by Rodriguez at the end of the bell.
Diez para esquina roja.
And we see some of the action from round number 3, and you see Navarro, two-fisted attack. This is basically what he is. He may be well served to actually invest a little bit more down to the body, but Rodriguez has been game, and he's been sneaky, landing his share of punches, usually at the end of rounds.
Let's go, Byron, let's go.
Bethel Durant, Steve Kim, keep those tweets coming using Durant Sports or Steve UCN Live. Watching Jonathan Navarro in the gold with silver, and Angel Rodriguez, man out of Houston, in Rockets red.
You know, for this round, I would just like to see Navarro close the gap, get right in on his chest of Rodriguez, and just really go downstairs. Make a concerted effort to see if you can really break this guy downstairs and then eventually work your way up.
Work that body.
You know, that's an old phrase. Work the body, kill the body, the head will fall.
4th round in the schedule for 6 in the super lightweight division. Hector Tanajara Jr. was scheduled to be in this slot. His opponent came in overweight, unable to make an agreement. That fight was scrapped. Navarro gets to be the co-feature tonight. Good 1-2. Went to the body, went upstairs.
In relation to Tanajara, when your opponent weighs in 7 pounds over, it's generally almost impossible to make a deal.
You make a deal, and then the commission's going to say no.
Yeah, well, generally there are rules that if you weigh in over by, let's say, 1 pound or 3, you can work with that. By a whole weight class, you're not even allowed to cut a deal, is my understanding.
You get the 2 hours to try to lose it. Then after that, come on.
Well, last week at Fantasy Springs, you were supposed to call the return of Turiano Johnson. He didn't make weight, and his opponent, Antonio Gutierrez, literally turned down an offer to take all of Turiano Johnson's purse, which would have eventually totaled up to $40,000, and he walked away.
And nobody gets paid when there's no fight. Jab from Rodriguez. Pace is slowed down here in the 4th. Navarro methodical with his approach. He's never been one like how we saw Ryan Garcia earlier, coming out just that wild coat and just trying to knock it out in 8 seconds.
Yeah, his pace and his attack is going to be much more methodical, I believe. And keep this in mind about Rodriguez. One of the things that I've been taught from matchmakers is never mind just a record. You got to be able to look past the record. In 14 professional outings with Rodriguez, he's only been stopped once. So generally, he is a very durable guy inside that ring.
He's going to teach you lessons as a young fighter, what you can and what you can't do, your mistakes, how to get corrected. Ten seconds to go in the 4th round. LA Fight Club, the Belasco Theater in downtown Los Angeles.
César, 10 para esquina roja.
It's your last round, okay? That's the last one. You know what that means?
You know, we see some of the body work by Thunder Navarro.
Look at me. You gotta let
Pretty
everything you
erratic body
go
attack.
right
Hasn't
now.
really
You
stuck
gotta let
to
go.
it.
You gotta
He's
go
been able to
country, you
control
gotta
most
move
of
the
the
head,
action.
you
He has the
gotta go
faster hands and the cleaner technique. But certainly, Angel Rodriguez has been very game here. First fight in 5 years.
It is the 5th round. I don't know where the corners got 6, but it is the 5th round. So forget about the advice about letting it all go, let it hang out, Angel Rodriguez. Jonathan Navarro, Angel Rodriguez. At 140, Navarro doing work with Mikey Garcia. I mean, what better work can you get?
Well, Beto, I really believe that's one of the benefits of being with a brand name trainer like Robert Garcia, who has a deep, talented stable of world-class fighters, is that every day you're gonna be able to work with the world-class fighter and also get great work in the gym. There's gonna be a lot of humbling days, but I think Navarro's still at that stage where I think a lot of these sparring sessions are probably tougher than a lot of the live bullets he's facing.
The shot landed by Navarro. How many combinations the last few rounds, as we saw in the first couple. The redness around the right eye of the undefeated Navarro. It doesn't look like he had much rust on him after that first round.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. He's even taking the punches better. And fighters will tell you that have really laid off a long time. You actually have to relearn how to get hit. And
relearn how to get hit.
Yes, it's one thing to be in the gym and you could spar hundreds of rounds with headgear and 16, 18-ounce gloves. But you have to understand, a fight like this, I believe that they are using 8-ounce gloves with no headgear. That is a whole different ballgame.
And that right hand was a whole different ballgame. Best shot of the night landed by Jonathan Navarro. Overhand right. Another good right. Right landed by Rodriguez, one of his own. And Navarro has no problem standing there with you, willing to trade.
Navarro is going to be a hit and be hit fighter. Conditioning is going to be absolutely paramount to his style and his success in the future.
Under that beat up fitness out there in Riverside. Angel Rodriguez, Houston, Texas, got that rocket red on. Super Bowl will be there this weekend. Steve Razzo is watching us right now at work. I mean, no, he's not at work. Watching on his computer as the tweet that he sends. No. He's not at work with Doc Phil watching right now. No. He's at home. We appreciate you, Steve Razzo, who watches every single broadcast. Along with Linus in Philadelphia.
Our security blanket.
Oh, without him.
The city of brotherly love. Go Villanova.
I sent him messages asking for fighter information. Like, he's a research book. Good round for Jonathan Navarro coming in. Workmanlike.
I think that's the best way to put it. What hasn't been spectacular, hasn't been sensational, but I think this has been a valuable lesson tonight through 5 rounds for Mr. Navarro.
10, esquina roja.
And we look at some of the action from round number 5, and that was a very steady 3 minutes from Navarro. And looking at the scorecards, I think it's pretty easy to say, or to feel, that Navarro is up probably 5 rounds to nothing. It's going to take a really huge finish for Rodriguez to turn this around. He's actually fought pretty well for a guy that's been out more than 5 years.
And a man like Rodriguez tonight earns himself another fight with the young prospect.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be some manager might say, you know what, nah, we might pass on him.
Yeah.
Because this dude looks tough. 6th and final round of the co-feature tonight, working our way towards Joshua Franco and Victor Pasillas. Velasco Theater in downtown Los Angeles. Bethel Grant, Steve Kim. That's 20-year-old Jonathan Navarro, undefeated, 7-0 with 5 KOs. Going up against his most seasoned opponent in Angel Rodriguez, 5-6-3.
Beto, you make a great point about Rodriguez, and I think at the 6th and 8th round level, Rodriguez is a valuable guy, because not only the amount of fights, and then one thing that managers and matchmakers will look at in terms of pulling the trigger on certain guys, they'll also look at that column all the way on the left side for knockouts. And in 14 bouts, he only has 4 stoppages, which means you're not going to be necessarily facing a puncher, but you're going to get this type of work. And I think Thunder Navarro's learned a few things here tonight. As I don't know if I want to say cruising his way to a victory, but he certainly had to put in an honest night's work.
He had to put in everything that he's learned at RGBA in Riverside into the ring tonight. No mouse underneath the right eye of Angel Rodriguez.
Let him out.
Body work, good dig. Haven't seen much of that, or as much as Robert Garcia would have liked.
Yeah.
Good right hand by Navarro, warmed by Rodriguez. He's got a chin on him. That's that veteran move, though, right?
Yeah.
You get a hit and you throw that elbow, and you come back with 1-2 of your own.
And look at that. Look at that counter punching by Rodriguez. Rodriguez in pockets has been very, very sneaky here. Navarro now facing some 2-way traffic. You know, you think about it, it's probably 5-0, Beto. He might be better off just laying behind the jab and I don't want to say going to a 4 corners, but be a little bit more conservative and put this 8th victory in the bank. You know what, Beto? This is what he is. Navarro is going to be a guy. He is going to take leather to give leather. This is his ring identity.
Good for the fans because they're going to see action.
Great for the fans, not good for his face. It'll probably give his trainers a heart attack once in a while.
Good 1-2. 6th and final round. He gives other opponents that hook.
Yeah.
He's been able to connect it.
Yeah. Not only connected, when he lands, he's also able to get guys out of there. And that's one of the real calling cards of advancing up the ladder. You know, people say, where'd the power go when fighters stop scoring quick stoppages? I think it has nothing to do with that. When you're facing sturdier, higher caliber fighters, it's harder to score highlight reel knockouts.
And that'll do it. They go the distance. Good fight between Jonathan Navarro and Angel Rodriguez. He's happy being back in the ring for the first time in 4.5 years.
You know, for a guy that hasn't been there since, what, at least the presidential election, I thought he showed some really good stuff in there. Very respectable performance. And I think Navarro certainly got pushed. And as he looks back on this tape, I think there's going to be a lot of teaching moments from him, specifically defensively, understanding sometimes you've got to bring your hands back in better defensive position and also do it much quicker. And there was a good right hand right there, Beto, that you spoke about earlier. And Rodriguez showing really good set of whiskers here. And then you talk about the sneakiness of Rodriguez, pockets of success as Navarro fell asleep at the wheel at certain points. Something that Robert Garcia, I'm sure, is going to make a point of emphasis moving forward.
Judges putting the cards together.
And Beto, my highly unofficial and unimportant scorecard, I have it 6-0 60 to 54, but as I said earlier, that doesn't tell the whole story. I do think this was a pretty tough night at the office for young Mr. Navarro.
And our man, Ricardo Celis, great boxing play-by-play man, works a lot of the play-by-play or pay-per-views in Las Vegas. He's just sent me a picture. He's in Houston for the Super Bowl at a sports bar where they have the Rockets game on. He's watching Ring TV.
There's a man with proper sense of priorities.
Gracias, Ricardo. He, along with Bernie Osuna and Lupe Contreras, for years were on the Solo Boxeo Friday nights all over Texas, and they saw some of the young up-and-comers. Great job. Thank you, Ricardo. Felicidades que están en su petazón in Houston. They'll be calling that game for Spanish radio. And Ricardo actually came down to the Rock Gym at Carson, started hitting the heavy bag, and he looked around. He's like, wait, there's a lot of sparring going on. You had the Irish with Mick Conlon. You had Quigley and Liam Smith going at it today. Good work down there.
But Michael Conlon, a very highly regarded Irish Olympian, will be making his professional debut March 17th at the Small Room at Madison Square Garden. A lot of high hope for him.
And you'll be there for that, right?
Yes, I will be.
And Joe Martinez will be with you in a few seconds. They were counting him down. That is the night before Triple G and Danny Jacobs.
Yeah, that weekend's going to be big. I'm calling it Boxing Palooza.
Boxing Palooza.
2017. Get your tickets now.
And then you have an Irishman fighting on St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, load up on the Guinness. Tell everyone around there, all the local pubs.
Well, it's Doug Fisher, who's watching at home in Inglewood right now, has taught me always load up on the Guinness.
Always.
And now, fight fans, we go to the judges' scorecards. Los señores Max De Luca y David Mendoza anotaron el mismo 60-54. De Luca and Mendoza have it scored the same 60-54. Y el juez Rudy Barragán anotó 59-55. Barragán has it 59-55. For your winner by unanimous decision, el ganador por decisión unánime se mantiene invicto and still undefeated, Jonathan Thunder Navarro.
He went the distance against a good, tough opponent. Jonathan Navarro sweeps the cards. He's now 8-0 for the 20-year-old from East LA, representing Robert Garcia Boxing Academy. So beat the Garcia in Philadelphia, so you didn't even have to be here. Navarro gets the job done for you tonight.
Yeah, good solid action, good solid work, 6 rounds, and I think by the end of the year, he's going to be an 8-round fighter according to matchmaker Robert Diaz, who got some valuable experience against the game, rugged, and durable Angel Rodriguez. And Beto, if there are some minuses that Robert Garcia is going to look at as he reviews this tape, offensively, we know what Navarro is. Two-fisted attack, very aggressive, likes to fight off that front foot, not afraid to stick his nose into a pile. However, there were segments when defensively he did not always adhere to some of the basic fundamentals, and he was caught. But good solid work, and he moves to 8-0, and I'm sure within 6 to 8 weeks we'll be seeing Navarro once again, probably back here at the Velasco Theater.
But these are the kind of fights, though, when you're a matchmaker, you put them up against a man like Rodriguez for a reason. You want to see how they do it, because if they struggle, then you have to know what's going to be the next step with him, right?
You know, I still remember when Oscar De La Hoya was a very young prospect coming out of the '92 Olympics before he won his first world title. I remember 2 guys by the name of Giorgio Campanella and Narciso Valenzuela who knocked De La Hoya down, and people started panicking. But again, the road to a title or to full development oftentimes, Beto, can be a bumpy one.
You got to go through those bumps and bruises to get there. Main event for the first time in his young career, Joshua Franco from San Antonio. He's 21 years old. Had an excellent 2016. As I was talking to him yesterday, briefly at the weigh-in, he's like, remember when we met? I'm like, yeah. I was the first guy fighting with nobody in the building. Like, now there's posters of me. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. And he doesn't talk much. Like, how does that feel? It's like, that means they believe in me the same way I've always believed in myself. These fighters have that belief system, but now to see it as the main event, that's the reason you wake up at 5 in the morning and you watch your diet.
You know, when you look at a bout sheet that we're sent and a lot of media members get, there is a progression, and I think it's very symbolic. The young fighters fight early in the afternoon or at night. They're on the bottom of it. But as they move their way up, they literally and figuratively go up higher on that bout sheet. And it really is a marker. Jonathan Franco, I believe, according to some of the people and his handlers, they think he could be a 10-round fighter within a fight or two, which means at that point you become a contender. Listen, he does not have a lot of fights, but I would say below featherweight, you move fighters a little bit differently. You look at a lot of the guys in Asia, you know, within 8, 9 fights, they're fighting for world titles and are actually very good. I don't know if you really do that.
Why is that over there?
You know, because they don't have time to waste, and quite frankly, there's not a lot of flyweights. There's not a lot of straw weights. And the guys that are usually that size are on thoroughbreds. They're not all boxing either. I mean, so if there's not that much of a deep pool of talent, you kind of get, just by sheer, I would say, odds or numbers, you're going to get moved up the ladder. But here's the issue for Franco. I believe he's a talented guy, but at 115, here's who some of your world champions are. Some guy by the name of Roman Gonzalez. There's a really good Japanese fighter named Nanu Inui. Then you have Cal Yafai, who just recently won his title. And then Jerwin Ancajas out of the Philippines, who I believe has some talent. Not a lot of easy belts right now at 115, so they still have some time to really kind of develop this.
Joshua Franco, 8-0, 4 KOs. Let's look at some of his highlights in his young career.
And Franco is an action fighter, and one thing's been evident, he's developing a little bit more power, specifically with that left hand. That uppercut's becoming more and more of a weapon. Also, in his last 2 fights, we have seen him buzz, Beto. So he's not necessarily impenetrable. Punch resistance at a higher level might become an issue. But I get the sense Franco, as he moves up the ladder, is going to be involved in a lot of good back-and-forth fights as he hones his skill set.
This was in his last fight out for Joshua Franco. Beto Duran, Steve Kim. Steve's working me red at UCN Live. No longer Max Boxing. That's for the Throwback Thursday pictures. I used to subscribe in college.
Did you ever get your T-shirt?
I got the shirt. Doug brought it to me, but I framed it. It's up on the wall. And you can check out Steve's podcast every Monday with Mario Lopez.
No. Well, that's with Gabe Montoya, the Montoya Factor.
The Montoya Factor, the best one out there.
And there's another guy. I do one with the 3 knockdown rule with some guy named Mario something Lopez. You may have seen him on TV.
I heard he's from Chula Vista. Hopefully his house is okay.
Yeah, well, his backyard, I remember it fondly. It's no more, though.
Yeah, I saw it in the LA Times, also on the news, is, it does rain in Southern California.
Yeah, Tone lied.
Yeah, we wish you the best, Mario Lopez.
He can afford to rebuild, and he's fine.
Exactly. Coming up, main event, Joshua Franco and Victor Pasillas. But your podcast can be found on iTunes, and also it is a call-in feature, which is pretty cool, because some of your callers...
Ooh, we need to get a screener. We really do. We need to get a screener. We do.
There's some dedicated people.
There are, though, yeah.
And also go and check out Doug Fisher's mailbag every Friday and Monday. Read his mailbag today. The fans are still fired up over what we saw last weekend. 4 excellent fights. Leo Santa Cruz gets his belt back. Mikey Garcia with a crazy knockout in the 3rd. Bandido Vargas loses his belt in Indio. And then Takashi Miura, I haven't even brought him up yet. And that was a great fight against
Beto, didn't you think after 6 rounds that fight could have gone either way?
Yep. I thought Mickey Roman was on his way, the fighter from Ciudad Juarez. Roman actually in attendance tonight. He comes with Joshua Franco's opponent, Victor Pasillas. They work out at the same gym. Saw Mickey Roman, who was stopped in the 12th round. And his face didn't look like he was in a brawl last week.
And the WBC has mandated that Takashi Miura, since he won, would now have to face Miguel Burkelt. And I think that would be an outstanding battle. And I think 130 is stacked with guys like Orlando Salido, Gervonta Tank Davis, and also a certain guy by the name of Vasyl Lomachenko, who probably is the class of them all. But a very, very deep division. I believe Lomachenko looks like he might be fighting the belt holder out of the East Coast, Jason Sosa, and I think that's a pretty good matchup.
Sosa, the Puerto Rican?
Sosa is a Puerto Rican.
Out of Jersey, right?
Yes, out of Jersey.
Oh, really?
Yes, pretty good fight. And I got to give Leo Santa Cruz credit. I did not think he could be versatile enough or had the wherewithal to make the adjustments to corral and control Carl Frampton. But from the very onset of that fight, Beto, his jab lassoed Frampton, controlled him from the outside, and I thought he clearly won that fight.
Frampton, they're talking about a trilogy with those guys. Maybe in Belfast.
Yeah. I don't.
But they don't necessarily have to fight each other again, right?
No, they don't. You know,
okay, did the Barrera ones, did they go back to back to back?
No, and that's what I was going to bring up. Barrera and Morales, who I believe is one of the historic rivalries in boxing. Look at the timeline. They fought in 2000, fought in 2002, they fought in 2004, and had a lot of fights in between. So there's two ways to do it, but also if you have guys that are very vulnerable, who are just built for each other, and you don't want to diminish the value of the fight by losing. Gaddy and Ward fought consecutively 3 times, I believe, within a 12-month stretch. So there's more than one way to skin a cat. I think there's enough good fighters at 126 from Gary Russell, Oscar Valdez, Joseph Diaz. I would hope in 2017 that the sport of boxing, do we need to bring in Jim Brown to call in another truce? get the Bloods and the Crips to work with each other, but let's make some fights here.
That 126-pound division loaded, 130 loaded. It is a good time to be there if you're on that level, because some big-time fights are going to be made. Beto Duran, Steve Kim, filling in for you. Send us your tweets. First fight of the night, David Miadys from Santa Monica was in the ring. He opened up the LA Fight Club February edition at the Belasco Theater. Let's look at some of the highlights from his fight.
Yeah, and you know, this is what he is. He's a guy that's not a big puncher. I don't think he has really heavy hands, but he's going to have to be a real craftsman in the ring. And most of his success came as he was able to close the gap from the mid-range and really smother eventually Dixon, who's a bigger guy, but was never really able to get off till the very, very end. But we saw some of the downfall of what could happen to Miadys at a higher level against guys who are going to be able to initiate more of the offense and get going against him. And for the first time, Miadys tasted his own blood, which he had not done previously. This became a real struggle, and Beto, I think me and you are both in agreement that easily could have been ruled a knockdown.
Everybody on Twitter ruled that one a knockdown. David Miadys on stage undefeated. And then you see Joe Martinez, our ring announcer, Rolando Arellano, former manager to everybody.
Well, best known, and I remember this about 25 years ago, and yeah, I am dating myself. He was a young, fiery manager for Fernando Vargas. Time flies. Time flies. Time
flies indeed, and they should know that the camera is always on them. Don't turn your back there. Don't want to show the bald spot there, Rolando. Yes, I said it. We're waiting for the Joshua Franco, Victor Pasillas to make their ring walk. And there you see, all right, if you're looking at the Golden Boy sign on the screen, right below them, all the people standing there, that is standing room only. So if you go to the Belasco, first come, first serve, boom, right there. That ticket gets you standing room only. Where else are you going to get that? A great environment to go and check it out. There is a balcony right above them, but you want to be right next to the bar.
Beto, one other note, speaking of Golden Boy, May 6th, we talked about it earlier at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Canelo Alvarez taking on Chavez. People have been asking me about the undercard. I believe it's pretty much been decided that the machine, Lucas Martin Matisse, will be making his return to the ring on that card.
And Matisse now training with the Diaz brothers in Coachella. Saw him in India. And here we go. We got a fighter in the ring. Here we go. Less Phil, more fight. Victor Pasillas, thank you for going into the ring right now. The fighter from Ciudad Juárez, Chihuahua, Mexico.
Desde Belasco Theater de Los Ángeles, California, damas y caballeros, este es la pelea estelar de la noche. 8 asaltos en el peso super Mosca. And here we go, fight fans, with the main event tonight. 8 rounds of boxing. This in the super flyweight division. Presentada por Oscar de la Hoya's Golden Boy Promotions y patrocinado por Tecate, Born Ball y Casa Mexico Tequila. It's in the taste. Los tres jueces por ese combate. The 3 judges scoring this bout at ringside: Rudy Barragán, Max DeLuca, and David Mendoza. When the bell rings, your referee in charge of the action, encargado del ring, referee Raúl Caiz. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the judges are ready and the fighters are ready. Los Angeles, make some noise if you are ready! Presentando primero la esquina azul, con los pantaloncillos plateado con rojo y un peso de 113 libras y 3 cuartos. Introducing to you first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing silver trimmed in red, he weighed in officially 113 3/4 pounds. Un veterano con 8 victorias, 6 derrotas, 2 empates y 5 ganadas por nocaut. His professional record in 16 bouts, 8 victories, 6 defeats, 2 draws, and 5 wins by way of knockout. Desde Ciudad Juárez, Chihuahua, México, presentando the Dragon, Victor Pasillas. Y sobre de la esquina roja, con los pantaloncillos dorados con verde y un peso de 114 libras y un medias. His opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wears green and gold. He weighed in officially 114 1/2 pounds. Con un récord perfecto de 8 victorias, 0 derrotas y 4 ganadas por nocaut. His professional record stands perfect with 8 victories, no defeats, 4 wins coming by way of knockout. Presentando de San Antonio, Texas, here is the undefeated Joshua, el Profesor Franco.
Ok, muchachos, ya les di las instrucciones allá abajo. Los dos traen el calzón muy alto. Golpes aquí están perfectamente bien. Cuidado con las cabezas y los golpes acá atrás no se valen más. Dense la mano y buena suerte a los dos. Hijo, así es.
Raúl Caiz Sr., the 3rd man in the ring tonight. Ready to go with our main event, Joshua Franco, Victor Pasillas from the Belasco Theater in downtown Los Angeles. Franco, a perfect 8-0, 4 KOs. He's got the green trim trunks, red and white, and Victor Pasillas, 8-6-2. Pasillas hasn't fought since 2015. He took all of last year off. Why? He said, because I didn't want to fight.
About as honest a reply,
Yeah.
I think, as you're going to get to that particular question.
He said, I would get fights on 10 days notice. No, I wasn't ready for it. Because I used to do that younger days. Now I need to actually have a camp. He's 28 years old. He's, I need to be smarter about my career. There's no need to fight for chump change, as he said it, money. And there he is. He said he had a month-and-a-half notice to take on Joshua Franco. He said he always stays in the gym in Ciudad Juárez. So he's ready to go. Franco, 21 years old, big-time amateur out of San Antonio, Texas. Now living and training in Riverside, California. Robert Garcia Boxing Academy. Part of that crew with he and Jonathan Navarro, who got the victory tonight. Hector Tanahata. Franco, the older brother of Bam Rodriguez, a 17-year-old who will be turning pro in a couple of weeks. His father, Jesse Rodriguez, in his corner along with Robert Garcia. $115-pounders. The Professor is his nickname. The first day he showed up to Riverside, he had a nice little cardigan sweater, little glasses that he wears. So this kid doesn't look like a fighter. He looks more like a college professor. Name is stuck, because that's, you know, any good nickname is given to you. You don't give it to yourself.
The last fighter known as the Professor was the great Azuma Nelson.
That's right.
One of the great fighters from Accra, Ghana. Hall of Famer.
He had some great wars. Victor Dragon Pasillas, Dragon, given to him by a trainer when he was a young fighter in Juárez. He just came out breathing fire like a dragon. Name stuck with him, and you know, Mexican trainers, they'll give you, they don't know your name, they'll just give you a nickname. A quick left hook by Franco.
Franco having a nice first round, just controlling distance, kind of touching the high guard of Garcia, kind of gauging where he's at right now. What he's done here in the first round, I think, is a really good example of what they call ring generalship. You can see him curling that right hand. One thing I noticed about Macias defensively, his front hand, his left hand, he has it abnormally high, so it's going to be hard to really hit him with the straight right hand. You're going to have to kind of curl that right hand over the top and around the corner.
César 10, esquina roja.
Here you see Victor Macias. Those are the hands of Mickey Roman. He also had LA legend. By legend, I mean he's at every single fight you could think of, whether it's a club show, pay-per-view. Jesus Soto Caras. Caras will never walk in with a favorite, huh? He just always walks in with the visiting corner?
Yeah, he doesn't matter. He is a fighter for the people, of the people, by the people. And my understanding is his last fight with Common Guy, where he kind of announced his retirement, I think he may have changed his mind, which honestly does not surprise me. But we'll see.
Well, remember, the last time we were in Velasco, it was a fighter who came from Mexico, first time in the United States. The kid had just a trainer. He ended up having Soto Caras in his corner. After the weigh-in, Soto Caras gave him a tour of LA and took him to dinner. I mean, what more do you need from the guy? He's a prince. Not a king, but he's a prince.
And here's action from round number one. A good, solid one for Franco. He's able to set the pace and box effectively against Macias.
6th time that Joshua Franco has fought at the Velasco Theater. It's a place where Golden Boy is developing their young talent in front of people instead of just 30 people at a venue at 3 in the afternoon. A little different vibe though when you're there and people are yelling and chilling, people drinking the beers.
I don't think there's any doubt. I don't know what the difference is when you're fighting at, like, say, 4:30 in the afternoon and there's nobody there but the commission and the janitor. I think there might be more tension in gym sessions in the middle of an afternoon at times. Good left hook to the body by Franco. You can see one thing I've noticed about Franco the last couple of fights, he's done, I think he's really starting to sharpen up that left hook.
Well, that left hook is what knocked out Juan Brian
Bazan,
Bazan, and the undercard of
Canelo and Liam Smith.
Canelo, Liam Smith at Jerry's World.
Yeah, and I thought that was an eye-opening performance because I thought it's the first time, in my view, he really showed a certain ability to explode, to really press that gas pedal and change speeds and intensity.
Franco with a green trim trunks. Pitcher from San Antonio, Texas. And one of the things he's noticed is that he's getting stronger at the age of 21. At one point, he sparred with Carlos Cuadras. Also, Granovich, Abner Mars, he's sparred with in his career. Guys that have gone with Robert Garcia. That's what you were mentioning about the work that you get down there.
You know, there's that old saying, iron sharpens iron. You mentioned Carlos Cuadras, who will be returning March 18th on the Golovkin-Jacobs undercard. He gave Roman Gonzalez an absolute scare on September 10th at the Forum. It was a very heated 12-round fight. And should Franco develop into a true contender, eventually he will be facing guys like Cuadras.
At 115 pounds, he started boxing at age 13, and a good uppercut landed by Joshua Franco. He's going for that overhand right. Juan Maria watching. His good friend Luis Carrasco back home.
You know, the last two fights, Beto, we've seen Franco get hit with counterpunches that have stunned him. In this fight, it's pretty obvious that in the gym and just maybe even psychologically, Franco has made a concerted effort. When he's throwing punches, bring your hands back in proper defensive positioning real quickly. Be cognizant of the fact that something might be coming back at you.
10, esquina roja, César.
Hey, ¿qué está pasando?
What's going
¿Qué
on?
está pasando? Necesitamos golpearlo.
We need to hit him.
Vamos a ganar por golpearlo. Quedas adentro y no estás tirando. Cuando quedas adentro, golpéalo.
When you're inside, hit him.
De cualquier ángulo tira. Estamos bien, Garcia. Hey, van a pasar. Okay, more often. Yeah. Jab, stand, uppercuts, body. Yeah. Give me some more work in the body. Yeah. Those uppercuts. But don't get careless, all right? Because he's going to come back, all right? Yeah. Take a deep breath.
And we see the left hook. You can see Franco really digging on that front foot, putting a lot of weight on top of his left foot and just twisting and turning. The left, which also turns into an uppercut at times, is becoming a real solid weapon for Franco.
You hear the corner of Pasillas telling him, you got to throw. And it's Franco that comes out a little bit aggressive.
You know, usually that's the most simplistic of ring instructions. On the opposite end is, once again, Franco, again, digging with that left hook. Robert Garcia, I think, likes the way things are going. He's saying, keep doing what you're doing. Be steady, be consistent. I really like what Franco has shown. Real technical command here throughout the first 2 rounds and 30 seconds.
That's what he's doing as he's progressing in his young career. Learning to be patient. One of the things that is that his patience has always been there, but listening to Robert is a different story. Getting there, being methodical. And also, for this night, he feels honored that Golden Boy would make him the main event. Like, you put extra pressure, he's like, no, not extra pressure, but I do want to perform and be impressive. I want to do it again.
And as I mentioned before, Golden Boy matchmaker Robert Diaz told me earlier this week that they believe within a fight or two he will be a 10-rounder, which signals to me that they are going to move relatively quickly with this young man.
Victor Pasillas, favorite fighter growing up? You're like this one, Steve. From Mexicali. Not Tony Margarito. Maromero
Paez. Oh, one of the true sports, one of the real, I think, showmen of the 80s and 90s.
Said Paez was his favorite guy. He loved the style. He's like, that's not my style to show off like that, but I just loved the style.
I still remember Paez being involved in one of the last 15-round fights in boxing history. It was on Tuesday Night Fights in Mexicali. It was about 115 degrees against Calvin Grove. We had to score, I believe, 3 knockdowns in the last round to pull out a thrilling victory.
Mexicali, home of Diego de la Hoya, also home of Las Águilas de Mexicali, who play in the Serie de Caribe. Playing against Venezuela right now. And we're watching Victor Pasillas, Joshua Franco. Pasillas said he started boxing at the age of 13 because it was the only sport in the area he was growing up where it was free. All you have to do was walk in, sign up, and it was free.
You know, can I tell you, Beto, there's not a lot of things where people pay to get punched.
No.
Let's be honest.
He said soccer had to pay, baseball had to pay, basketball I was short, boxing was free, and it gave me a chance to learn how to defend myself.
Oh, good left
That
hook.
got him. That stung him, and he went down here, and it is over. Oh, it has been stopped. 3rd round. And Caiz Sr., the referee, is asking for the doctor immediately.
Beto, I thought that's an interesting call given the fact it was the first knockdown relatively early in the fight. I would, again, I'm not in there. I would have given the mandatory 8. That's what it's there for. But we spoke about this before. Franco's left hook is becoming a weapon. He's doing a better job of turning it over, getting it across his elbow, and hitting on the sweet spot. You're seeing a young fighter literally grow in front of our eyes.
Joshua Franco improves to 9-0, his 5th stoppage.
Wow, that was kind of a stunning end.
Yeah.
It didn't seem to me like it was foreshadowing a 1-punch knockout. And if you look at Franco's record coming in, 8 fights, 4 knockouts, 50% percentage. But again, that left hand, he is really working on it at the gym, you could tell. I get the sense they're not hitting pool noodles at the Robert Garcia Boxing Academy. And you could literally see Pasillas' legs go out from under him, and it was a quick wave off by a veteran referee that's certainly been around the block.
The Raul Caiz Sr. has been all over the world refereeing fights, so he saw something we didn't. Let's look at the replay here.
Wow, that was just a snapping left hook, and then there's a kind of a cleanup shot, and I do think it was not the left hook that sent him down, but I think it was the left hook that stunned him, and he seemed to go rocking back on his heels, and in the 2-3 punches that followed it, subsequently finished the fight.
Yeah, Cailles immediately jumped in and ended the fight. No 8 count at all. Younger fighters, maybe you don't get that leeway. But regardless, Joshua Franco landed some vicious shots to end the fight. The Professor took his opponent to school.
I thought that was a strong all-around performance, Beto, by Franco, even putting aside the exclamation point. Leading into it, I thought he looked very, very technically proficient. Seemed to be boxing with a lot of confidence, and what we saw the last couple of fights was him get hurt once or twice. He did not put himself in harm's way. I thought he was very responsible, both offensively and defensively tonight, and then he was able to finish with the flourish.
A flourish, power in Riverside, the RGBA. Pita Fitness takes them to the hill. They've run the Santa Monica stairs. They're all over anywhere they can to get the fitness. You're talking about the condition with Jonathan Navarro. It's not something you have to worry about. One thing also, Steve, you will never, ever see at the Garcia Boxing Academy, according to Pita, pool noodles.
Yeah, and by the way, Pita, he said this to me on Twitter. Steve, we don't even own pool noodles.
There you go.
There you go.
I don't even know what that means. I just like saying pool noodles.
You know those sticks. You know those foam sticks. I hate those things.
Oh.
I've always said about pool noodles, if you use them in the gym, if a boxer drowns, throw them to him. Don't have him train with them. That's just my opinion, though.
You're the one who told me if you're going to go to the boxing gym, go to the heavy bag, stand there, and work.
Yeah, a lot of shadow boxing.
A lot of shadow boxing.
It really does come back to the basics.
But Steve, come on, hitting the water bag on your toes in just 35 times in 20 seconds.
It's great. It's great for synchronized boxing. If that ever became an Olympic sport, there'd be a lot of good ones.
Steve, it's great for these boxers that are Instagram all-stars. Like, you got a fight coming up? Yeah, when? You know, my manager. Who's your manager? Oh, you know. Until you get in there, it's easy to talk, isn't it? Joshua Franco with a knockout. Joe Martinez waiting on the particulars. There you see the Belasco Theater. They'll be back at the Belasco February 17th. You'll see there. And then after that, Chimpa Gonzalez on March 10th. And let's look at the recap of the entire fight that went 3 rounds.
And from the very onset, it was Joshua Franco who was in command, really showing a certain control of the ring, also cleaner technique, and you can see again, that left hook has become a real weapon for that young man from San Antonio.
The end comes officially 2 minutes, 32 seconds. Round number 3, your winner by KO. He is still undefeated, Joshua El Profesor Franco.
Here's the Professor. Everybody back in San Antonio happy. There's a Robert Garcia Boxing Academy San Antonio edition run by the Tanahadas down there. They have 20 kids at the amateurs right now. 5 of them going to Kansas City for the silver gloves. Congratulations to them. And then, you know, when you knock out like that, the Spanish announcer comes in and just attacks you. But don't worry, we won't attack you with pool noodles.
You know, I think tonight the Professor gets an A. That was a solid performance. And I've said this many times, it's a mantra of mine. It's not if you win, how you win. And tonight, I think, showed a lot of control, and then he puts the exclamation point at the end. But I think we are seeing a fighter develop very, very well under the tutelage of Robert Garcia and company.
First time he's a main event fighter. He said he wanted to put on a show. So everybody all over the United States and in the world, in Colombia watching, Ryan in Canada saw it. Professor with a KO. He's now 9-0, his 5th stoppage. And he switched easily. Linus with the good line. The Professor closer to tenure. You know, as Ricky Henderson once said, I don't have tenure, I got 20 years. Love Ricky. Imagine him as a boxer.
Oh, the punching Professor.
Coming up, bonus coverage. David Miadys and Vinci Dixon were at it earlier this evening. That's coming your way on Ring TV.
Entonces, ¿ya me paro o qué onda? Yo tiro la pausa aquí.
Debut for Golden Boy Promotions as they start another year. A super lightweight battle, 6 rounds of action. It was David Miadys. He is the southpaw taking on Vinci Dixon. Miadys came in with a record of 4-0, 3 stoppages. Weighed in at this fight for 138.8 fights, while Dixon, a 25-year-old from Lancaster, PA, he also weighed in below 140 pounds. And early on, you saw Junebug Miadys, whose last bout was October 7th here at the same venue at the Belasco Theater against Jason Gavino, scoring a first-round knockout. He is crowding Dixon, and this was the story of the night. For the most part, this is where he had most of his success, backing up Dixon along the ropes and really chipping away with short body shots, working with both hands. There is Miadys letting both hands go. So 30 seconds to go here in round number 1. It's been a productive one for Miadys, who gets up to a good start against Vinci Dixon. His record again, 17-5-2 on his ledger, are 10 undefeated fighters. So we can certainly say that he is a well-traveled, well-seasoned veteran.
10 seconds to go. David Miadys, Vinci Dixon shaping up to be a good one. That was the first. Second round of action, David Miadys, 4-0, 3 KO, Santa Monica. He's the southpaw. Vinci Dixon, 7-15-2. 2 KOs at Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Have gloves, will travel.
And Beto, I thought early on, Miadys' movement and his mobility, the lateral movement, really offset some of the physical advantage that Dixon had. But I thought Dixon throughout this night didn't take advantage of the fact he's the taller, longer guy, and he really placed himself in a position where he allowed Miadys to dictate the tempo, start off the action, and he never really got going till it was really much too late.
Miadys working in. Went to Santa Monica High School. Was in the band was Miadys. Started taking it seriously when he was out of high school. He sparred in a wild card. Sparred with Victor Postal. Got some work as Postal was getting ready for a fight.
In fact, Postal at that point in the summer, he faced Terrence Crawford on July 23rd in what was a unification bout at 140. As we know, Crawford, a natural right-hander, spent a lot more of his time now in the ring, I've noticed, as a southpaw, which really hastened the arrival of David Miadys to his camp.
Halfway through the second round, scheduled for 6. David Miadys, 4-0, 3 KOs. 21 years old, also lives in Pasadena. Velasco Theater in downtown Los Angeles. First Friday of every month, it's the LA Fight Club. A minute to go in the second round.
You know, Beto, we mentioned this earlier. Despite 3 knockouts in his four professional outings, you get the sense this is what Miadys is. He's a guy that's going to have to really chip away. He's going to pick, and he's going to kind of probe. But I don't see him really hitting through anybody as he moves up the ladder. Does not have what I would call naturally heavy hands.
At the 140-pound division, he would be one of the shorter fighters in that division.
Going to have to be very, very clever in there. He's going to have to be very, very crafty. He's going to have to find spots where he's find safety. Like in this particular fight, I thought he was much better off being chest to chest with Dixon than he was on the outside when he ran into some problems. But he is a pretty good craftsman. He's not afraid to stick his nose in there. And I think sometimes with that lack of power, you're better off being in close and really smothering your opponent than you are out in open space. From David Miadys, just 21 years old, hailing from nearby Santa Monica. He's going to have to be an activity volume fighter. I don't see him stopping a lot of guys with one shot. And tonight, eventually Davis, this guy does not have a great record. 2-11-1 in his last 14. Overall record of 7-15-2. But he was able to get some good work. Quite frankly, I thought at the end, started to see some of the deficiencies that young David's going to have to really work upon every day in the gym.
Fans behind his own corner for young Junebug Miadys. Junebug means junior. The southern area, his dad from Louisiana. Just a nickname for him. Trained by his dad, David Miadys Sr. Miadys had his pro debut on the Cotto Canelo card. Oh, no, I'm sorry, the Amir Khan Canelo card at the brand new T-Mobile Arena. So with a bit of trivia, the first ever sporting event at the T-Mobile Arena, that would be David Miadys.
I remember that night. It still had that new venue smell.
Yep.
And in fact, Golden Boy will be going back there May 6th. It was announced today that the Mexican Civil War between Julio Cesar Chavez and Canelo Alvarez will take place at that very same building.
Culiacan versus Guadalajara. That'll be a great week of action. You know, Golden Boy doesn't just do the fight the day of. No. Getting there Tuesday and all week long. There'll be all kinds of activities at the MGM. Get your ticket information will be coming out soon. There's going to be a pretty cool press tour involving pushing it. I don't think you need to sell that one because Mexicans, Cinco de Mayo, and then 2 great Mexicans going at it.
The Tecate is going to be flowing like the Nile. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
And the Guinness for Doug Fisher. That little lounge of the MGM is going to be fire. Good luck getting a seat there. That's David Miadys. He's fought in Vegas. He's now at the Belasco Theater, grinding his way against his most experienced opponent in Vinci Dixon, who's fought from 140 pounds to 150 pounds.
You know, and Vinci Dixon, again, putting aside the record, he did come in with some momentum. I was there at the Galen Center on the campus of USC December 10th. He held Adon Mares, who, yes, is the brother of Abner Mares, to a draw. A lot of observers will tell you, putting everything aside, the politics and the promotional alliances and who's the house fighter, that Dixon may have won that fight.
Ended up being a draw in 4 rounds. But Dixon has been a fighter who he starts slow, and then all of a sudden gets a little confidence in you. And then what?
Well, on this particular night, and this was our first bout of the night here from the Belasco Theater, I thought he started off very slow and started to build a little momentum, and by the end of it, you began to wonder what happens if this is an 8-round fight. But at the same time, David Miadys is a 6-round fighter, and we see why. But Miadys is going to be a guy. Conditioning and tempo are going to be everything, and they're going to work together because he's going to have to work in volume just like he's doing here, and he's not going to blow anyone away physically. I don't see a lot of physical strength. I'm not saying that he's feeble, but most of his punches are going to be the variety where they're going to touch you, but they're not necessarily going to really back you up. And we see some of the replays here from the previous action. There's an overhand right. And Miadys, I thought early on, did a very good job on the inside of making sure that his head was never like a T-ball. It was never just a stationary target, moving it on both sides of the shoulders of his opponent, staying off the center point on a consistent basis. And these are the things he's going to have to be really, really good at as he begins to face solid, tougher opposition.
David Miadys and Vinci Dixon. Miadys in the silver trunks is the southpaw. Looking at his record and looking at Vinci Dixon, you know, Brendan Barbosa sentences all the information, the bios, the fight facts, and go over that, pour it through, and so much information. You look at a fighter like Dixon, has fought, Steve, you were saying this, he's traveled, he's seasoned, fought in New York, fought in Connecticut, he's fought in Pennsylvania, fought in Texas, now fought in California. He's one of those seasoned guys that some matchmakers, some managers might say, you know what, I don't want to put my guy up against him.
You know, and you better be very careful how many rounds you actually make the fights, because, again, as I mentioned just a short time ago, by the end of the night, or the end of the 6 rounds, Dixon started to figure things out, and Miadys ran out of ideas. And, again, he's still very young in this process, but I'll repeat myself. Vinci Dixon, on his record, 10 undefeated guys. So he's not going to be intimidated by much at this stage.
Miadys in the silver, 21 years old, in front of a packed Belasco Theater crowd. Standing room only seats right, or section right there. And we'll be back there the 17th.
Yes.
As Tito Manzanares makes his U.S. debut for Golden Boy. Fighter been fighting out of Mexico in Los Mochis, Sinaloa. And then March 10th, Chimpa Gonzalez is in the mix. Then March 23rd, Jason Quigley, Glenn Tapia. That is the first fight between those two. And it'll also be the first time that Golden Boy and ESPN have hooked up their first fight of the year. Great venture between the two companies for the fight fans.
And we want to note to our audience, Beto, and this is certainly beyond our control, Hector Navarro was scheduled to be on this card. I was certainly looking forward to his development. His opponent came in overweight by only 7 pounds, so that thing got kiboshed.
By only.
Only.
But he did lose 3. He did lose 3. And Tanahara and also Edgar Valerio was scheduled, but got sick this week. Doctors held him out, unable to fight on the card. So Joel De La Hoya His manager will find him a new date. As will Robert Garcia for his fighter, Hector Tanahara.
What do they say? Sometimes discretion is the better part of valor.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Not all the time in this sport.
No. And that's the kind of wisdom that you can hear in Steve Kim's podcast. He's got 2 of them. And then you also hear a lot of John Woodenisms.
Hey, never mistake activity for achievement, Beto. Just remember that.
Well, be quick, but don't hurry.
You know, if Benji Dixon had this fight to do over again, I wonder, would he try to, like, plant himself in the center of the ring and come downhill, be first with that long jab of his? As you'll see later in this fight, things got a little bit interesting for Miadys. And you see some of the good work by Miadys. Miadys has the ability, as they say, to kind of hit on the fly and shift and twist and pivot.
Fifth round scheduled for 6. David Miadys and Da Vinci Dixon. Miadys in the silver trunks. He's 4-0 in his young career. Wasn't a fighter that had like a lot of big-time amateur fights. He went to some of the tournaments. Good amateur background, though.
No, you could tell. Miadys is well-schooled. Technically, he's very, very solid. That's the way I would describe him. The question that I have is he's going to start facing better guys who aren't 7-15-2. How is he going to be able to deal with better offensive fighters without the ability to really back them up with his own punching power?
There you see Dixon on the ropes. Not many punches thrown from Dixon, but when he has decided to let his hands go a bit, he's connected.
Well, this is what I call the layaway attack. Early on, he put his punches on layaway, and that was an issue.
You better go collect them.
Remember layaway? I'm old enough to do. I did a lot of layaway.
I've heard about it. I've heard about it. Miadys trying to dig into the body. Good uppercut landed by Junebug Miadys.
I think Miadys, at his best, has to be perpetual motion, whether he's on the outside or the inside. Yeah, he's going to have a lot of movement of his head, his shoulders, really get his hands moving, change distances, change angles. When you don't have great punching power or that one overall skill that stands out, you then have to be well-rounded to make up for it.
Thank you for watching this fight between David Miadys and Vinci Dixon. Good night of boxing for Golden Boy Promotions from the Belasco Theater. Yes, Steve Kim is witty right now. He's very witty. That's why he has 2 podcasts.
Well,
and then you see a Vinci Dixon land in his hand.
Well, you know, happy hour was just a few minutes ago. So.
Yeah. Somewhere, sometime. And Vinci Dixon looked like he's a fighter who didn't want to be in there in the first couple rounds, then got hit and woke up like, you know what, I can hang with this young fighter, Miadys.
And Beto, we mentioned this earlier. This is the first time, and this is a bit of a milestone moment that I think every fighter goes to. It's the first time David Miadys was really marked up, and you see blood coming out of his nose. I guess you could kind of say it is the first moment of adversity that he has faced in his professional career.
And David Miadys went on to win. For time constraints, we had to dump out of that last round. Miadys actually went down in the 6th. It was ruled a slip, but he got the victory. He improves to 5-0 for young David Miadys. You see my man Andy working right there for the Ring TV cameras, getting you the good shots. They're breaking down the ring. Cuñado, Art, and the crew getting it done. Velasco Theater is done tonight. That saw David Miadys with the win. Jonathan Thunder Navarro with the win. The one and only Mr. Victorville. There he is, Ryan Garcia with the victory. Go read his article on UCN Live to see why we're calling Mr. Victorville. And he got a good win over Devin Jones with the early stoppage. Good night for the Golden Boy Fighters. The first broadcast from the Velasco Theater in the month of February. We'll be back February 17th. And there you see the first fighter from Robert Garcia Boxing Academy, Jonathan Navarro. He went the distance. He improved and he worked hard against Angel Rodriguez, a tough veteran who gave him his all good workmanlike experience. And Navarro improves to 8-0. Obviously, no pool noodles being used in Riverside for the Robert Garcia Boxing Academy. He had good work with Angel Rodriguez, a 35-year-old from Houston, Texas. So then in the main event tonight, his stablemate, Jonathan Franco, looked good. He was taking on veteran Victor Pasillas. Pasillas 8-6-2 coming in. Franco, there you see him from San Antonio, Texas, came in undefeated, 8-0, 4 KOs, but he got the victory, knocked out Pasillas in the 3rd. The professor from San Antonio, Texas, goes home with the victory. For everybody involved at Golden Boy Media and Entertainment, David Tetreault, Will Wright, I'm Beto Duran, from my partner Steve Kim saying good night from downtown Los Angeles.